Carter, it's like 4 in the morning, dude. What do you want?
Ransom, did you know I've never played the Metal Gear Solid games?
Carter, I don't Really? None of them?
Yeah, it's strange, right? I'm the big story guy, yet I've never gotten through one of the most important narratives in gaming. But guess what? I'm doing it now.
Okay, hold on. Can we at least, milk this for content or something? I mean, at least a podcast?
Sounds like a great idea. Come with us throughout the Metal Gear Solid series where we'll tackle the most important questions.
Can love bloom on the battlefield?
Are we here just to suffer?
Should all otakus be barred from employment?
Find out with us on A Podcast to Surpass Metal Gear. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second episode of A Podcast to Surpass Metal Gear. So today we will be covering Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. I am joined by Ransom and
Hi.
and Ricky is joining us in full today.
What up?
I'm gonna set the tone here. Fuck Metal Gear Solid. It's a great game and all, but holy shit, Sons of Liberty is just actually goated. Fucking Christ. I have been waiting. The one episode was just me waiting to talk about 2. Also, this is too loud. But you know what? No, fuck it, it's not too loud. Because this intro track goes crazy. The remix of the fucking Metal Gear Solid theme sounded all patriotic and shit by the end. God!
Oh yeah, I loved the music in this game.
Get to see all the... Oh, did you know it's composed by the same guy who composed Shrek?
Really?
Yeah, he's a real Hollywood music producer, and Kojima said, I want him bad, and he was right
went to watch Shrek and was like, I want that in my video game.
Yes. That is
What
exactly
a Kojima thing to do.
Yes.
Someone needs to ask Kojima about Shrek. He does interviews all the time.
Oh, yeah. I love how in the beginning montage it's showing all the cool shit Snake's gonna do when you play as him, and then at the very end you get a little tease of his little sidekick character. Oh, I wonder who that is.
Ransom, I've made a discovery. This is a live discovery for the podcast.
Okay.
This is very important.
Go ahead.
Hold on.
Hold on.
I'm holding.
Hold on.
I'm sending a picture. Describe to the audience what you see.
Oh my god, I see Hideo Kojima in the background, where in the foreground, the PS2 box of Metal Gear Solid 2 is there, and in front of Kojima is a Shrek poster!
That's not a Shrek poster.
No, it's not a
That is
poster.
a sealed Shrek figure. And it's not just
Oh
one.
my god, you're right.
Oh my god, it's the whole fucking set or something.
There's one to the left, too!
Yeah, there's multiple Shrek
Oh my god, there's so many. Why?
Well, goddamn, I need to salute this genius to this song right now, bro. This shit go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Genius Kojima, that is not a joke in this episode. That is not a fucking joke in this episode. I don't care if he wanted someone pissing out of his ass in the game. Genius things going on in Metal Gear Solid 2. One of the most genius of all is making it an actual stealth game, which is the first thing Carter said to me while he was playing it.
I played through like a few minutes of the game and I was just like, wow, this one's actually a stealth game. Like, I think there's more stealth in just the ship section than there is in like the entirety of MGS1.
MGS1 is a set-piece game, not a stealth game. And that's okay. It's a good set-piece game. But 2 is a fucking stealth game, bro. Okay, do you want to just keep the discussion to the boat for now?
Well, first, let's kind of go over, in case anyone is just joining us for this episode, let's go over like our personal context with this game.
That's a good idea.
And that will be a good segue into the beginning.
Okay. So Ricky couldn't figure out how to get past the start menu as a child.
That's correct.
Because X's and O's.
Because X's and O's, I didn't know that Japanese games reverse those, so I just thought my shit was broken, and I said, well, I'll play SpongeBob SquarePants movie game instead. And I did that until like a few years later, and then I was like, oh, I'll just try it again, and I figured it out because my brain was a little bit bigger, a little more equals. And yeah, and then when I eventually figured it out and started playing, I thought so. I watched Ransom play this recently, all the way through.
Yes, that's my most recent playthrough, and he was there for that.
Right. I didn't play it. I watched Ransom play it. As a kid, before I watched Ransom play it, I thought as a kid I finished that game. But upon watching Ransom play the game, I realized that no, I did not finish that game. I didn't get very far really at all in that game. But I had fun. And a little bit I did play. Like, I definitely played through the ship section and a little bit of the yeah, the other one, but
So Metal Gear Solid 2 was my first Metal Gear game. I was a wee child, and I had Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and Solid Snake was my favorite character because he was so cool, right? Of course, a child would see Solid Snake and think he's the coolest character in the game. And I managed to obtain MGS2 for my PlayStation 2, and I played it as a tiny child. And I probably played it 10 times in a row. I got so good at that game to the point of revisiting it as an adult. I was like, dude, I got this shit in the bag. I used to be so good at this game. And I got my ass kicked all over the fucking place. It was so funny. Ricky watched me struggle through that entire game. And it was a fantastic time. I love how fuck off stupid the game can be sometimes. But also coming back to it as an adult, see, as a child, getting through that story, I comprehended probably zero of it. Like, actually none. But man, as someone with a brain now, this is the smartest the series ever gets. I'm sorry, Carter. It has peaked here. I apologize.
The story kind of goes downhill from here?
Not significantly, especially for like 3 and... 3. But, this is the most profound the series will ever get. This is the smartest. This is the most it will have to say.
Okay, cool.
The gameplay certainly gets better. The pacing certainly gets better. But as a story, as a politically themed game, it never gets better than this. I'd say you'd have a hard time finding better than this in any video game. Certainly it exists. But, like, as mainstream as this, as beloved as this, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, like, if I'm gonna compare, like, political stories in games, like, I don't know if I would put this quite on the same level as, like, say, Disco Elysium, but it's leaps and bounds in that respect ahead of, like, most other games, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, it's simply, I don't think you'll find a more politically nuanced game than this that's as popular. So it affected a lot of people. Most gamer chuds were just upset about Raiden at the time, but, you know, us real gamers, us real, non-chuds, we understood. We hear you, Kojima. We understand the danger of information control.
And also just lots of other things, that we can talk about later as well.
Fucking much. So fucking much.
So, I think I mentioned earlier in the first episode that I actually do have a bit of personal context with this game as well. I grew up not really playing any of the Metal Gear games. The only ones that I had played were Revengeance and Ground Zeroes when I was a teenager. But this game is one that I've been curious about for literal decades, Sons of Liberty, because, Ransom, I don't know if you remember, but the very, very first time I came over to your house, we tried to play some of Sons of Liberty, because you really wanted to show it to me, but we couldn't because your disc was like scratched and wouldn't go past the first cutscene. So for years, MGS2 only really existed in my mind as like the game that Ransom really wanted to show me that has that like really atmospheric first few seconds of a cutscene before it freezes.
Did it live up to the hype?
Oh yeah, I got weirdly nostalgic watching that very first cutscene. I was like, oh, this is what Ransom was wanting to show me all this time, and now I'm finally experiencing it.
So, that first cutscene, there's only one word for it. I'm not talking about the intro, I'm talking about like the first real cutscene with Snake on the bridge, jumping onto the boat.
Yeah.
There's only one word for it, and it's badass. That shit is so fucking badass. Like, we can leave the political nuance in. We can put that in later. Right now, dog, him just smoking a cigarette, walking across the bridge in the stealth camo, and him jumping off. Who needs political
themes?
Who needs political themes when you can show Snake land on the tanker and electricity surrounds him as he gets up into the pose? Like,
oh yeah, isn't it the Terminator reference?
It is it's the Terminator reference. It's
guys only want one thing, and it's walking on a New York bridge in the middle of the night during a rainstorm, wearing a heavy coat and smoking a cigarette.
Honestly, that'd be peak living for me. I would never be happier than that moment.
That's understandable.
So, okay, he gets on the tanker, and I think I can say a statement pretty confidently. I think the tanker might be, or not might be, if I put it this way, it's definitely top 5 video game levels of all time for me.
Yeah.
The vibe, especially just outdoors, not even just outdoors, inside the tanker as well, but the rain, the ambience, the lighting, the sound design, it's all literally perfect, at least for me. I couldn't enjoy a video game atmosphere any more than that, probably. Like, it's up there with, like, Hollow Bastion for me, you know? Like, it's perfect. I prefer it over the plant, if I'm being real. Not to diss on the plant. I love the plant. That's where the full game is. But the vibe of the tanker, everything. It's perfect.
Well, and it is kind of a universal truth of games that it is so much easier to make, like, graphics look good during the night with rain than it is, like, during the day.
And it's also a limited scale level.
Yeah.
That's why there's all the, like, melting ice and shootable fruit and flour bags and all that stuff. And the glass breaking realistically, which still doesn't happen nowadays.
Oh, yeah. And man, just, like, I'll be honest, walking around this ship level and just taking a look at everything and taking it all in, I honestly was just like, did games really ever need to try and look better than this?
No, like, I absolutely agree. Silent Hill 3 and MGS2 and 3 are, like, perfect showcases of a character model never needs to look better than this to get the point across. You know what I mean? Snake, Heather, Mason, and Naked Snake all have, like, the full range of human emotion.
Also, yeah.
Go ahead.
I will say, it was a bit of a jump scare for Ocelot to come in looking a little bit like James. Or not Ocelot, wait. Otacon.
You're still doing it!
I'm still doing it.
Why are you still doing this?
Why are they both have names that start with O's?
Ricky and I have names that start with R. You don't fuck us up.
That is wild, Carter. That is a wild
Carter,
thing your
how are
brain
you
does.
still doing this? Otacon does look like James. Which is a compliment to James because they purposefully made him more handsome in this game.
Well, I mean, hey, he got that glow up after finding the love of his life. Which, by the way, like, also another immediate reaction. Like, I was just right. Ocelot won. Otacon won.
Yeah, no, the game's...
Otacon got Snake in the end. Snake just left Meryl and went to go live with his boyfriend Otacon.
I'd say with each entry in the series, it gets 15% more gay. I think that's a comfortable number. I'll go with
15.
Yeah,
And I mean, it turns out, he went to come in and check on. He snuck onto the ship to check on the what's it called when you have someone else like have a baby for you?
surrogate.
Yes.
Yeah, he's coming to check on the surrogate mother. For him and Otacon's child.
That does retroactively end up being that. But yeah,
I was somewhat right.
I'd say 15 because by the time we get to 5, it'll be a pretty high number. That's a really gay game. Like, really gay. And 4 is also it definitely has moments. So okay.
I will say, like, I really like, I think Otacon is probably my favorite character in this series. I loved him trying and failing to be Mei Ling.
And it's
that
great.
intro level.
I want to talk about this. The writing immediately, like the first Kodak call, is like, damn, these fuckers are talking like real people now. Like, well, maybe not necessarily that, but the writing in 2, especially just all the Snake and Otacon calls, they're so fun. They're so fun. Every word of dialogue in this game enraptures me. Especially the Jack and Rose stuff. That shit gets me every time. I'm like, this is so fucking dumb. I love it.
That's just how friends talk.
So, right quick, for context that I may be missing, Carter, have you finished Metal Gear 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I finished the whole thing yesterday.
We'll get to the crazy shit.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I will say, looking back at the Mei Ling stuff, and we will talk about this a lot later on in the episode, but I just realized that is kind of almost maybe a foreshadowing, or even just a nice simulacrum, I guess, of the entire point of the game, of about how people were just wanting the first game again, but trying to do that, nothing good really comes of it.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Wow, that might be even smarter than Kojima was thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it was I was kind of through the beginning, I was kind of like, oh, I would like to have Mei Ling again, and all the other old Kodak people, and so Otacon trying to recapture that did kind of get me thinking a little bit, but yeah, I really love the design of this whole level. It's interesting because I had always heard people say oh, it's basically like its own game, which I would very much disagree with. It is an extended tutorial, but it is probably one of my favorite extended tutorials I've ever played.
Yeah, it's just that'd be like saying Ground Zeroes is it's the exact same fucking thing, really. The exact same thing. Ground Zeroes and the tanker mission. 5 takes a lot of cues from 2, no doubt. We'll get there.
And two really feels almost like a playground where it's just letting you figure the game's mechanics out.
Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, obviously, like, this is back when, like, people were still getting used to these types of games to some extent, especially, you know, if you were on consoles. And, like, they do kind of ease you in a way.
Mm-hmm.
If you're used to just, you know, playing Metal Gear Solid 1 all the time, you've got to, like, learn to think much more vertically. And I really love how it, like, gives you a bunch of, like, little situations that let you make use of the new mechanics in, like, cool and fun ways. Like, a lot of encounters have, like, very specific solutions that you can figure out if you kind of just start thinking about, like, you know, okay, what's possible for me to do now? Like, I remember in the kind of that larger room right before you get to the, like, long hallway where it's a bunch of the stairs and there's, like, a bunch of people patrolling through, like, different floors, and there's this part where you can drop down one floor without taking the stairs, and that it's kind of the only way to, like, do that to get down without alerting the enemy, because they're, like, right at the bottom of the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I really like little moments like that. It's really, really cool.
Speaking of the enemies, God, you can tell they put in a lot of work on, like, enemy movements and, like, the coordination between them.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's crazy how much. It's just a fuck ton of effort. When you get caught, they come after you in squads and shit. It looks really good.
You actually feel like you're being pursued.
Yeah.
Like, it's as having just come off of Metal Gear Solid 1, like, this, when you get caught in this game, it is actually overwhelming how they will, like, call in, like, dudes with shields. They can, like, straight up block off your exits.
Mm-hmm.
They really make alerts much more of a consequence in this game, and I really like that. Like, you know, even later on in the in the oil tanker, it's like they can sometimes even pursue you, like, past rooms and, like, through different parts of the actual like, level, and, like, that is such a cool advancement so quickly as well. Like, how many years was it in between MGS1 and this?
Not many. I think it was 4. I think it was 97 and then 2001. Yeah, I can look it up.
Which, like, just absolutely insane. Like, you think about games that came out
98.
4 years ago now, and, like, there's not much in terms of advancements.
It's even worse that I said it was 98 in 2001. That's crazy.
So 3 years.
Like, the graphics difference alone, not like. What a time to be alive it must have been. We were too young to really, like, remember that. But god damn, man. Imagine having your mind blown by MGS1 because it's all this voice acting and shit. And then 3 years later, only 3, you're still in high school, you're still in college, right? Fucking 2 comes out. That would be the most mind-blowing shit in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I could see someone still saying there's never been a bigger jump.
Yeah, it's like they're just diminishing returns nowadays that, like, it's not gonna ever have the same just crazy amount of advancement.
5 runs on the PS3, man. Like, shit just isn't that different anymore.
Mm-hmm.
God, alright. So...
But yeah, lots of fun stuff on the ship mission.
Okay, I want to say...
I really like
Go ahead.
the boss fight. I really like the boss fight with Olga. I think Olga's actually a really interesting and cool, like, character, because it's like, you think about when this is. 2001. And also kind of considering Kojima's previous game and how it treated women, it's cool that this game just kind of has a character that is pregnant, but that's not the whole point of her character. Like, that's not the only thing she's allowed to be. It's just...
I feel like it would be in Death Stranding, if I'm being honest.
Oh, yeah. It's just well, I mean, it is in Death Stranding. But it's like, it's just one part of her, a little fact about her that ends up being really... I don't know. Particularly, I think about, like, I don't know, Tenet, a movie that released only a few years ago, and how, like, you have that one character who's, like, it feels like her only, like, character trait is that, like, she has a daughter. And so, I don't know, it feels very, I guess, progressive for the day.
Well, it's progressive in more ways than that. I mean, let's talk about what Snake and Otacon are here to do. They're infiltrating a U.S. Marine ship to try and get dirt on them about them making a Metal Gear. Like,
yeah, this,
fuck,
like...
dude, that's so cool.
I actually really, really like that development for Snake, and that, like, it's not like he's just going back to Foxhound. He has, like, really progressed in his character and is, like... He knows what he's, like, fighting for now more than ever.
This Snake is the reason why it's so weird to go back to 1, is because in 1 he's just this standoffish asshole who doesn't give a shit about anything, really. He has to learn to do that. But in this, he's an actual protagonist. like, he's got his shit together so much. He's so cool and so, like, he's honestly, like, a nice guy, too. Like, he's being so nice to Otacon. He's just doing his job. He comes in with a tranquilizer. He doesn't even come in with, like, a lethal gun. He's just here to do his shit. He's here to take pictures. Like...
Yeah. And I will also say, like, you know, that first game had, like, it had its hints about, like, being very critical of the US, but this game just, like... It feels like constant.
In your face. It's great.
It is insane that this came out, like, a few weeks after 9/11.
You know, thinking about it, God, yeah, no kidding. No, there's no wonder Kojima was worried about releasing the game, man. But, thinking about it, God, just this alone makes all the difference between Solid and Naked Snake. You'll see what I'm talking about, but, like... These really are two completely different characters. Like...
And, yeah, and we will get into more of that, I guess, near the end. You know...
Also, this is the best Snake design.
Yeah, this is a really good
Is
design.
so much fucking better than the 1-1. I mean, it's so good they put it in Smash. Like, come on.
Yeah. And this is probably obvious, but, like, you feel so much more powerful, since you mentioned the tranq gun, like, you feel so much more powerful with the ability to, like, shoot people from afar with first-person mode and, you know, drag bodies. Like, I can totally understand what you mean when you said, like, Twin Snakes, first-person mode breaks the game.
Oh, yeah. And if I'm being real, like... It's almost always the answer in 2 as well, but it is way more designed around it, you know? Like, it's definitely not...
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it game-breaking, but it is very much... If you were trying to play the game without it, you'd be fucked.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly because
it's funny.
It's required, like, 20 fucking times for non-enemy things. Go ahead.
It is really funny, because I feel like the game still expects you to use, like, the MGS1 style shooting sometimes. Or at least, like, a lot more than you actually do, because, like, there is a part later in the game where that is kind of the whole gimmick, is they try to do a Psycho Mantis style fight again, but, like, it doesn't really make sense, because the twist is, you just gotta get in first person to shoot him, when you've probably been doing that the entire game.
Yeah. You're talking about Vamp, right?
Yeah, Vamp.
I've never really seen him as analogous to Psycho Mantis mechanically. I get what you mean, because he avoids your shots.
When he literally gets the Psycho Mantis introduction with, like, the bloody hallway and stuff.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, that's more a plot thing, I think. But, like, you know, just them trying to recreate the experience on Raiden.
Yeah.
But it's like, I feel like the vamp fight, I've never seen it that way. That's a really interesting point. I've always just kind of seen it as, yeah, it's a boss fight. It's good. Would you say Fat Man? Like what? Would you say he's like Vulcan Raven?
Yeah, Fat Man actually maybe could be seen as a Vulcan Raven type character. But also like he is also kind of the anomaly. Like he is I
mean, he's the anomaly
guess,
in more than one way. Like, in the plot, he's not actually on the side of Dead Cell. By the way, I prefer Dead Cell over Foxhound. I think Foxhound is great. They're both top 2. But, like, I just prefer Dead Cell.
Really? I kind of liked, I think I liked the protagonist a lot more in this game, but I think I did overall prefer Foxhound in terms of antagonists. Because I felt like they had a bit better fleshed out motivations and like things going on.
The only ones that could beat it out for me would be Revolver Ocelot and Sniper Wolf, right? Because like, okay, maybe you're right. Because Psycho Mantis too, that's too iconic. Okay, maybe, but I think Dead Cell fucking rocks.
Yeah, I think that Foxhound does a good job at like provoking kind of sympathy with the player.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think you could argue like Foxhound is probably a big part of Snake's development, and from the person he was at the start of MGS2 to the person he is at the start of MGS1 to the person he is at the start of MGS2.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like that's where he kind of is like, yeah, no, I could have just as easily like been one of these people.
But okay. So Revolver Ocelot comes in.
Well, yeah, so when we go down, I do have something to say about the Metal Gear picture section.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you're going in to get dirt on Metal Gear, on what is it? The Marines developing Metal Gear Ray.
Yes.
And this is where I had a big realization moment, and actually like really, really big moment.
Mm-hmm.
I realized, wait a second. This is just Sly 2.
Oh my god.
I don't know if you even got past Sly 1 when I let you borrow it, Ransom.
Yeah, no, I never even beat Sly 1.
But Sly 2 is very, very different. And one of the fun things about its structure is, you know, it has all these worlds with all these missions, but the first mission in every single world is you sneak into the facility or location of each villain, and you take like reconnaissance photos of like the location of where like the last mission is going to be, so that like you and the other characters can formulate like a little plan, and you know that's where you get kind of the ideas for the other missions. And so it's really cool to kind of see like, oh, I think they kind of got that from this game of just like, what if we did that for every level where you start out going in and just getting pictures.
That is really cool. I should play the Sly games, honestly. They're on the list along with Jak and Daxter. God, okay. There's so many goddamn details.
Yes. Oh, also the codec conversations are just the radio conversations from Sly as well.
Hey,
Right.
I gotta step away right quick. I'll be back.
Alright. Because they even do the thing where, like, in Sly, you can, like, make the characters kind of turn their heads with the analog sticks when doing, like, the radio conversations.
Oh, wow, really? That's great. Did you ever press, like, L2 or R2 to make Snake or Raiden say the stuff?
Make them say the stuff?
Well, when you're in a codec, I think it's R1 and R2, shoulder buttons or whatever. If you press those, Snake or Raiden will say something positive or negative. Like, it won't interrupt the conversation, but just in the background, you'll hear him go, "That doesn't make any sense! Wow, that's awesome!" Ugh. Like,
it's really funny.
Yeah, it's great. They never bring it back. I wish they did.
I might have to go in and mess around with that.
Yeah. Okay, like, I want to talk about so many.
But
I could talk about every single room in that fucking game.
I think you're gonna say, Revolver Ocelot, potentially the biggest jobber of all time, comes in.
He comes in and he does not job.
For once in his life.
Yep. He does great.
Well, no, he does job at the very end.
He does kind of job to Liquid, yeah.
He jobs to his own arm.
Which is just great. The arm shit is so stupid, and I love it.
Yeah, I guess Liquid just, took over because he has so many dominant genes.
Ooh, that was revealed. Ooh. God.
But
go ahead.
you get a good kind of action scene. I will say I really like the way Kojima knows how to handle a lot of people in a scene, which is something you actually surprisingly don't see in games. But it's like he can do like ensemble casting, where it's like you have like these groups of soldiers kind of like acting in unison and framing it in a really cinematic way. Like there's a certain rhythm to it that I realized when playing, like, wow, I just have not seen this really anywhere else.
It's awesome. it's just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The cutscene direction of, especially like the final bits of the tanker with the Ray breaking out and stuff, it's so fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Ray's better than Rex.
Ray is pretty cool. You know what's also cool?
What?
That hallway where, with like the darkness. Isn't that like faked in some like really elaborate way?
Which hallway?
The very long hallway leading up to the kind of Metal Gear A section where like
do you fight a bunch of enemies in there?
Yeah, well you fight and or sneak past a bunch of enemies and it's like they do the thing where it's like it's really, really dark in the distance and kind of slowly fades in as you walk.
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely faked in some way. There's some videos online showing you how they fake and cheat a bunch of stuff in that game, and they're really cool. There's a lot of really cool stuff in that game that you just wouldn't even think about. It's like, oh, I just would have figured that was real, but no, it's totally bullshit, but it looks amazing. I miss when games would do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
God, it's all just so good. I can't stop. Like the lockers with the pictures, and Snake can like jerk off to them. You got the Vulcan Raven shadow, which is really funny.
Mm-hmm.
You got the little things like the glass breaking and the ice melting and all that little stuff. The fight with Eva, not Eva, fuck me. The fight with Olga is it's such a good job of showing off the first person aiming and interacting with the environment, like shooting the light, shooting the cloth and stuff.
Yeah, like it really does almost feel like a tech demo, and just like Kojima is like wanting to show you everything the PS2 can do that the PS1 couldn't. And it's also like I feel like this game really does feel like where kind of those old rumors start of like Kojima let like every member of the team include an Easter egg.
Yeah, which I believe it in this game, because holy shit. Snake is just so cool. He's so cool in this game. But
and then he dies. He dies in that ship attack, which I will say I was actually very surprised that like in my mind I had always imagined the protagonist switch as like they actually do try and trick the player into thinking that Snake is dead, but like they really don't.
Yeah.
You see him in the water, like, swimming in that last scene before you switch chapters. And so it's like,
And it doesn't take long at all as Raiden to find Pliskin.
You meet Pliskin, like, it feels like half an hour in.
Yeah, it's easily within an hour, but it really might be 30 minutes. But yeah, you switch on over to the plant chapter, the real game, and you have a character who doesn't sound like David Hayter, who's called Snake.
But he sure is swimming and
He's
going
swimming,
into
he has
that.
the mask on.
He goes into the elevator. Which I will say, it's interesting. I know there's like a lot in this game about the idea of sequels and people kind of just wanting to repeat the past. And I guess Kojima's annoyance with like being told to make the same game again. But I'll be honest, I didn't catch it for a very long time because I'm just like, oh yeah, Kojima just does repetition like a ton already. Like, because MGS1 has like a ton of stuff repeated from the first two Metal Gear games I've heard, and like Death Stranding has a lot of references to, you know, the Metal Gear Solid series, and so I kind of just felt like it was business as usual, Kojima, but just being like, you know, hey, I did this, hey, look at my old stuff, I'm gonna keep referencing that with the new stuff.
I think Raiden's introduction is really good. The intrigue is really there, but it's like everything surrounding him too. Like someone's already cut a hole in the fence around the plant, and then you go in a room that is really similar to the initial elevator room from the first game, but the guards
and
have
Snake
already
just
been
goes up the elevator.
Yeah. Like, it's such a tone setter. Like, Snake walks in the first game, and it's like, yeah, I'm the guy. I'm that guy. But Raiden, you come in as Raiden, and it's like, something is happening here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's, you are more kind of like Meryl in this game, and that you are like the green rookie,
yeah,
who is overconfident, kind of working against like forces and movements that are so much like bigger than you may be ready to handle.
But you have your two codec calls at this point. You have the Colonel, and you have Rose, which gotta give it to I forgot the voice actors' names, but Roy Campbell's voice actor really does a good job of sounding more robotic, but in a subtle enough way to where you don't really think about it.
Yeah, and those codec calls are interesting because, like, you know, because I was just like, you know, oh hey, Kojima repetition, this is business as usual. I was very weirded out at first, but it's like, okay, why am I getting the tutorials now?
Yeah, it's super
why are they telling me the controls? I just did this entire thing. Is this for people who
I'm gonna be real,
chose to skip the first section for some reason?
I do think that's a big part of it, is the fact that you can just play the plant section for some reason. I don't know why they let you do that, but I think that is part of it as to why you get tutorials there. Some of them you've already gotten in the tanker section, mind you.
Yeah.
But the wording of those tutorials is very interesting because it's the exact same sentences as MGS1. Which, like, you know, you would definitely initially take that as just, oh, they're just repeating this shit. It's tradition now. But that's not at all what it is, it turns out, you know. It's great.
Yeah.
There's so many, like, big signs of what's really going on, but they're framed in a way in that it's a video game. You're not gonna think this is actually part of the plot. This is just it being a video game. It's so good.
Yeah. It is done with, like, a... I feel like they don't overdo it in those early hours, which is nice. But it is still interesting to think about, like, how people who had, like, gotten MGS1 when it came out and played it, you know, like, 3, 4, 5 times, trying to get those, like, higher ranks, like, what would be going through their head during this opening segment.
Like, there's so much to think about when replaying that game. I'm sure you'll replay it someday, you know? Because it's a genuinely good game.
Mm-hmm.
And just going back and looking for those signs, it's so fun. So, we're talking about Raiden. Carter, go ahead and talk to me about Raiden. Give me your thoughts on Raiden.
At first, he's kind of an ass, and I really like that.
Yes.
Like, he's kind of, I don't even know how to say it, but just like, he can be mean in like a very different way than Snake, I feel. From the first game.
Snake is mean in a confident kind of way. Raiden is mean in a bratty way.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah. Raiden is bratty. That's the word I was like looking for. And I don't know, I really like that about his character. It's kind of funny to hear him say, you know, like, oh, you know, I've done years and years of VR training. I got this. To Snake, or, you know, Pliskin. And it's funny because it's like, I feel like Raiden, that makes Raiden honestly a little easier to get into the mindset of than Snake.
Oh yeah, like, as much as that's what Raiden is supposed to be. He's supposed to be the surrogate for the gamer.
He is supposed to be someone who has played, or, as we'll find out, is playing MGS1. And, like, I also really, really love the conversations between him and Rose. Just, like...
They're so fucking funny, dude.
Be trying to save, or it's like, you know, you're saving at, like, the start of a big boss fight, where Raiden's life is, like, in danger, someone's about to be killed immediately, and you're just talking for, like, 3-4 minutes with Rose about, like, him forgetting their anniversary.
That guy.
Like, remember how we watched King Kong multiple times in one night?
Why did they do that?
It's because Kojima... It's because Kojima thinks that people do that. He thinks that
I believe you.
People watch
movies
over and over again in a single sitting.
Also, Raiden, like, really is written to be the kind of asshole who needs to prove a point that badly.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was the Empire State Building!
But it's also, it is, like, a nice, kind of cute, sappy story. And, like,
it is, it's
even
good.
Even though it's weird, like, I could see someone starting a relationship a little like that. Of just,
absolutely.
Like, getting into a random argument with someone about King Kong. It's like, no. I am going to prove that I am the one who's correct.
It's so good. God. So, you go in... I will ask, overall... Which protagonist do you like more, MGS1 Snake or MGS2 Raiden? Okay. I agree.
Raiden 100%.
I
agree. Snake was funny and goofy, like, as a kind of, like, stereotypical action movie character, but Raiden feels much more like a person. Like, I think people who were getting mad at him are, like, actually insane. I
think it's also kind of a self-report, you know, if you don't like Raiden. Because it's like, I don't know, you're definitely a chud if you don't like Raiden.
Yeah. Well, it's like, he's not even whiny. Like, that's the thing I heard about him for years, is that he was whiny, but it's like, no, he only, like, starts complaining in, like, very understandable situations.
Yeah, like... If the whining you're talking about is him being like, stop acting like there aren't human lives on the line, be normal, Colonel, then like, no, fuck you. That's like one of his defining character moments. That's the moment he starts to become like a real hero.
Yeah, I feel like this was also definitely in the era of like people spontaneously combusting over Shinji from Evangelion.
Christ. Man. So, what's the order of events here? He gets out, takes the mask off.
So I am, just to keep my memory like refreshed and like maybe catch a few details that I
You got a long play
had maybe
up.
forgotten. I have like a long play just going on in the background. And Ransom, it's like 15 minutes
Before he meets Pliskin?
Yes.
That's so
you
funny.
you immediately go to the place where Vamp and the others are.
What a
And
fucking...
Vamp...
Go ahead.
I will say I do really like Vamp.
Vamp's great.
He's very fun as a villain. Absolutely murder sexual.
Oh, yes. Very hot. He is bisexual, that's why his name is Vamp.
Which also, I'm curious, when do you get that conversation? Because I was doing a lot of the Codex stuff, and I don't think I got that.
You have to call Pliskin after you fight Vamp, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, like, after you fight Vamp.
In the water room.
Okay.
I think. I'm not sure. Speaking of Codex, my favorite Codec person to call in the entire series is Pliskin. I think Raiden and Snake talking always gives the most interesting conversations. And funny. Snake can be really funny.
Do you have any particular ones you'd like to share?
Ah, fuck. There's... There's one very funny one that's very contextual. It's, when you're on the tanker, Otacon can tell you to take some Pentasmin to cure his seasickness. And if you take it, Snake can call Otacon and be like, wow, it really worked. And Otacon will be like, damn, bro, you got placebo the fuck. Like, that shit don't work. I just told you it would and it worked. That's called the placebo effect. Dumbass.
Amazing.
But if you call Snake after you get some Pentasmin as Raiden, if you've done that, Snake will go, yeah, it helps stabilize your sniping. Also, it does not cure seasickness. And Raiden's like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, never mind. So Snake's a salty bitch and he's really funny. He's also very stupid sometimes. He goes, quote, I'm a Navy SEAL, Semper Fi. Which is like,
yeah.
I love when the snakes are stupid. Like,
that's the big boss genes coming out.
That is absolutely the big boss genes. Also, fun fact. To help keep the secret of Pliskin, they were thinking about having the Liquid Snake voice actor provide the voice for Pliskin until he revealed himself to be Snake.
Would the implication be that he's just putting on a voice?
I guess so. And it's also very strange that Snake could do that. I don't like the idea of Snake being able to do that. I'm glad they didn't. But
I mean, it's also really funny when you take into account that, like, Liquid's voice also comes out when he is possessing Ocelot.
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell you, they dropped that in 4.
Huh.
It's just Ocelot's voice. So I guess Kojima thought that was stupid.
He's I guess he's Britophobic.
To be fair, it is pretty stupid.
Well, no, the dominant genes come out and they take over the body.
His vocal cords?
Yeah.
I don't know, bro. I think I prefer it in 4, but it's fine in 2. Man. I think Snake is such a fun... You know what you say about Jotaro, how you prefer him in part 4 because you think he serves better as a supporting character rather than a protagonist?
Yeah, some Carter lore here. I don't like JoJo Part 3, and I really don't like Jotaro as a main protagonist.
Man, Part 3's great. But fuck you.
That's based. That's based.
Ah, you Part 3 haters. Enjoy some fun road trip. Come on.
Enjoy some terrible pacing.
Oh, whatever. It ain't bad.
But yeah, I do think I do think that Snake is really, really fun as a like kind of mentor character.
Yeah, he's great.
But yeah, it's nice to just have someone to kind of bounce off with him in a different way, I guess.
Yeah.
It's also nice that like it's also nice that he isn't kind of sexually harassing women in this game.
Yeah, that's nice. That's really nice.
It's like I know people have made the joke about I know people have made the joke about his behavior in one almost being like him compensating for like being gay and like just trying to put on the straight man act as best as he can.
And now that he's found his lover for life, he's just happy with himself.
Mm-hmm. Which, like, I'm dead certain that isn't what Kojima was going for. It's a funny, like, coincidence.
Yeah. I will say, it's really cool that it really feels like Snake has his own shit going on throughout the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it really feels like he's just out and about doing his own mission.
I mean, because he is. Like, they give him, like, big tasks to do.
They do. It, like, by the time of the helicarrier boss fight, it really feels like you're on a team. You're in a 3-man team with Snake and Otacon, you know? Like that shot of the three of them walking towards the camera with Hal holding the bird. Like,
that's such a good moment.
It's a fantastic shot, but it's like I really feel like I'm one of the boys right now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the three of us versus the world, and it's awesome. Because I wouldn't want it to be any other 3 characters. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, we need to freeze some bombs.
We also meet Fortune.
Yeah, the pseudo boss fight. I think Fortune's a really cool character. I love her design. I think she slays.
Great design.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of sexualization, well, in the whole series really, but I don't think Fortune counts. I think even though she's got like the cami fit on,
she does have Kojima's kind of like latex bodysuit thing going on, but also Raiden also does with. Let's be honest, Raiden has childbearing hips.
He does. That joke rang true for a reason. But I think Fortune just looks cool enough to kind of rock the sexier look. It's also like she can't get hurt. She can't be shot, so she doesn't need to. I don't know. There's in-game justification. The outfit itself looks cool enough. Cause like, I think one thing with me as far as like sexualizing characters is the more cool the design is, the more it's like, nah, man, do whatever you want.
I think having the jacket really helps.
Yeah.
Like it.
Like I think
if it was just the bodysuit, that'd be one thing. But like I think the jacket is actually like a really, really nice touch.
I think Quiet looks fucking ridiculous, by the way, if you want to know.
Oh yeah.
If you were wondering. Like I'm no better than any other man. I be looking, right? But it's like I will still acknowledge I would rather it not be this way. Like it feels strange. I also just we'll keep that for the 5 podcast, which you can expect in 3 years. Nah, probably not.
I think it does also sort of help that like you have Olga in the game who like isn't like really sexualized.
Yes, Olga's fantastic. I love that she gets to be the cyborg ninja of the game. Also, her death scene is like horrendously brutal.
Oh yeah, like that was rough.
Like, not in an overdone way, but in a way. This is an awful thing to reference for this, but you know the Joker movie, where at the end when he shoots the TV host,
Yeah.
It's just really fucking fast. It feels like that, where it's just like, fuck.
Yeah, that moment does kind of... That is one of those moments where you're just like, wow, there was a life that just ended right now.
Yeah, it's tough. Again, getting ahead of ourselves, I apologize. I love this video game.
How do you feel about backtracking, Ransom?
Hey man, it's not as bad as 1.
It really isn't.
But there is a little bit, but this is definitely the nostalgia kicking in. But I loved running back through the big shell with new key cards to find new weapons.
Oh yeah, well, this is a stealth game. This is a real stealth game.
So that was a lot of fun for me, especially as a kid. I was kind of trying to blitz it in my most recent playthrough, and that oftentimes got me in a lot of trouble, as Ricky saw.
Yep.
But
yeah, it was
ahead.
fun for me as well, because it's like, I actually found 2 of those bombs before even getting to the bomb disposal section, so I
love that they're there beforehand.
Why is there a bomb right here?
I like the bomb disposal portion. I like the pacing of it. I like the thematic elements of it, where in the beginning you're lagging behind Snake, but in the end, he's like, "Good job, kid. You're ahead of me. I still have 1 to go." And it's like, "Yay! Look at me go!"
Yeah, and it also does really start the kind of thematic through line of just like every single character is lying to you in some way or another.
Okay, can we talk about Peter Stillman for a minute?
This game is a lot about, I guess, like deception and like the truths that people create for themselves to make themselves feel better. And like Stillman, like, it comes off as rushed in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like this game still has a bit of like Kojima just speed rushing character arcs, or speed running character arcs, and where I think they could have had a little more fleshing out. But like, I do appreciate Stillman after the fact for like what the ideas it was kind of trying to go ahead and introduce.
His parallels to Raiden and stuff.
Well, and just like you're right. There are some really big parallels to Raiden, but also in just the way of like, much as they talk about at the end of the game, how so many people kind of operate under their own truths to kind of make life bearable. Like, that is absolutely what Stillman is doing, is he, had this reality he created for himself of being injured in that, like, bomb he, like, wasn't able to defuse, so that, like, at least he could say, like, I screwed up and hurt a lot of people, but at least, like, something bad also happened to me, so
People
I
will
don't
feel
have to
bad
be
for me.
as guilty.
Yeah. Interesting character. Like, I don't think you get to see characters like that very often in fiction. It's a very human thing to do. Like, it's just such a specific flaw for someone to have, but someone out there, someone you probably know, maybe you've done it yourself, you just lie in this way just to not feel the guilt of something, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It did also reminds me a bit of I can't even say. Well, I can't tell you what the movie is because, it is one I would like to show you at some point. But it does remind me of that character flaw does remind me of a somewhat recent film that came out. And for the viewers, like, if you know, it's
Sonic 2.
Yes, Sonic 2. But that's a conversation for another day.
All right.
But yeah, I really liked the way the bomb disposal section like really kind of got you using first person mode a lot more. Really had you checking out the environment. I really like it, makes you explore, and I really appreciate that.
I just like how the bomb disposal spray works too, like mechanically, just on the controller. Just holding the right analog stick up. It's not normal, but it's still fun.
Yeah, and so another weird gameplay quirk is as you're going throughout all of the different what do you call them, the
Struts.
struts, you have to get your mini map working in all of them. You have to always go up to a little terminal, and also that terminal, every time you boot it up, it opens the options menu, which is very odd. What were you thinking about that?
I mean, in the moment, it's just like, that's a weird thing to do, but in retrospect, it's like, huh.
Yeah, especially because it has you create that personal profile.
Did you use your real
with a name and nationality? Yes, I did.
Good.
With like your name and nationality on it. It's like, huh. I don't think... Was Metal Gear Solid Online doing anything at this... No? No? Huh.
I think more than anything, opening the options menu there feeds into VR theory, or maybe simulation theory, which is before MGS2 came out and proved it wrong. There was a genuine thought that all of the tanker section, all of the plant section, maybe even the tanker too, was within VR.
Which, like, honestly,
makes sense.
Not the worst theory.
Literally, reality starts bending around you by the end of the game, so yeah. You can see fucking code on the walls in the Ray room, you know? And the room where you fight the Rays is just in a fucking void.
Yeah,
where is that?
I think it's supposed to be the hangar, but it looks all dark and shadowy, and like, you know, a void really is the right word for it, because it feels like it could very easily be taking place like on top of the tanker anyways, or no, on top of the plant, but just it'll be really interesting to see how the game kind of how the series continues to go with some of these themes.
So after the bomb disposal, there's the Fat Man boss fight. I love that boss fight a lot.
It's a pretty fun fight, and Fat Man is just...
What a character.
He's a character, yeah.
He's Kojima's magnum opus, let's be real.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was this character. I think I may have gotten a little idea of, like, at least some of those lines were kind of self-insert lines for Kojima.
Maybe so.
He kind of seems like a character that, like, a silly author would kind of use as a self-insert. I do like the way you, like, fight him and that you have to, like, knock him over and then shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
he's like crawling on the ground.
It's such a, like, violent thing to do, you know?
It's like, oh my god, I'm watching, like, the video of him, and it's so silly if you do the trank on him, because by the end of the fight...
He's just covered.
He's just covered in... His head is covered in trank darts. It's like, yeah, no, that's probably enough to kill him, so I guess it doesn't make... Like, that's probably enough tranquilizer to kill a person, so it probably doesn't matter if you use an actual gun on him or not.
No, probably not. I will say, I've never enjoyed the fact that, like, the games never have alternate cutscenes or anything for trank deaths. I know that'd be a fuck ton of work for very, like for no reason. But still, right, like, when you're doing a killless run, and all the bosses still die, it's like, eh.
I will say, like, I would be very worried about the game kind of... If a game does that, I'm worried about them going all the way and doing the whole, like, we're gonna give you a good ending or a bad ending, depending on whether you kill this person.
Yeah, I wouldn't want, like, a different ending. I don't know. Honestly, there's probably no better way to do it, so I just won't complain. The story is the story, and that's just that.
I just feel like it's not enough of a... I feel like that theming is just not enough of a priority in Metal Gear Solid for it to warrant. Like, I can understand, like, little conversations during the game. Like, I do like that the first time you kill someone as Raiden, like, and you call Rose, Raiden has, like, a really interesting conversation where it's like, he's like, Rose, you realize, like, I just killed someone, right? And Rose is like, you know, she kind of plays it off and it's just like, well, yeah, you know, like, it's that kind of environment. Like, it's your life is at stake. Of course you did. And, like, Raiden seems kind of almost more distraught that, like, Rose isn't reacting at it. Which is, I think that's a really interesting, subtle, like, character detail that also, you know, is kind of foreshadowing that, like, both Raiden and Rose have much more going on.
What good characters, man. What good writing in this fucking video game. I love MGS2 so fucking much. Geez, so what's after the Fat Man boss fight?
You immediately meet Cyborg Ninja.
Yeah, which... That's especially when Raiden starts to be like, what the fuck is going on? Why am I just playing Metal Gear 1?
Yeah, and it's like, who could it be now? Like, the one from the first game got turned into a little brown stain.
I just... It's a good moment. It might be a wake-up call to the player as well to think like, huh, you know, this really has been very similar to the first game.
Yeah, and I also like that, does he go ahead and give you the, like, phone now?
I think so. Yeah.
So how many times did he use the phone for you? Because I only got, like, one use of the phone.
Yeah.
When you're putting out the fires.
Yeah, he also gives you the disguise, which it's fun to run around in the disguise. Well, that was in the first game, right?
Well, Meryl did that, which I guess you could kind of count it.
I don't.
You're the rookie who has to disguise themselves.
But, like, gameplay-wise, it's not repeating something, you know?
Yeah, it's a nice, like, fun thing, and I like how, you know, they do have to kind of make it convoluted so you can't, you know, do it everywhere. Like, oh man, I guess their planning was just so good that they knew, okay, we're gonna have these people in this room and we're gonna give them this specific uniform and this specific gun. Yeah. Which, like, you know, that's a lot of coordination. That's really, really specific. I don't know. That doesn't sound like...
It's almost like it was designed.
Yeah, it's almost like it was set up specifically to be like that. But why would Solidus do that? That doesn't make sense.
So you get the AK-47, you get the disguise, you go and find the guy with the heart.
That's a really fun moment as well.
I like that. I like that little gameplay bit. I also love how when you're listening to people with a thing, the more you point it away from them, the smaller the subtitles get. That's really fun. That's such a fun detail that did not have to be there.
And speaking of fun details, if you point it off to the side enough, you get some audio of someone not having a good time.
I forgot about that. I did not do that on my recent playthrough. I completely forgot. Ricky, do you know what he's talking about?
I don't think I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carter, go ahead.
I was gonna let Ransom explain since
No, you
you're
explain. You have
the
the
lore. So if you point the camera off to the side enough with like the directional microphone, you can just hear someone shitting themselves.
Oh,
the Kojima classic.
Yep. Because I can't. You were there for the first episode, I think, Ricky, where like there's this guy who has like stomach problems, and
yeah.
he has to go to the restroom like I don't know twice or something in the game, and you know in this game you have a guy just not having a good time in the restroom as well. It's Kojima likes his poop jokes.
Yeah,
He
Kojima's
really
truly
does.
a boy at heart.
Yes,
because
he's a small child.
You know, he's like us. You know,
It's-
farting, pooping.
You literally
I mean-
get pissed on in this game.
Yeah, and
You
I
too.
don't know if you forgot this, Ransom, and I don't know if you knew this, Ricky, but in Death Stranding, pissing is a mechanic.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Like you have piss needs,
You have a piss button.
right?
You can piss, and mushrooms will grow out of the ground. And also, I think you can just make like piss grenades
You know,
to
Well,
throw
I don't-
to throw at the monsters because they don't like that.
I don't know what we do without Kojima and his brilliance, really. But
He is a man that has all of his intricacies just bared right out to the world.
I am not ashamed of my kinks. God, what a fucking guy. What a goober ass. When do you get pissed on in 2? Well, okay,
can't
actually, before that,
remember.
hold on. Because right after that segment, you go to the president, right?
Well, hold on. In this scene
Mm-hmm.
where you're doing the directional microphone, you get that conversation between Ocelot and
Yes.
Solidus. And Ocelot comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and he's about to attack you. Ransom, when I saw the cyborg ninja on the ceiling about to come down, I cheered so
You
loud.
thought he was gonna get his arm cut off again?
I thought he was gonna get his arm cut off again.
That's really good.
Unfortunately,
That'd be the best.
Ocelot does not commit to the bit all the way.
I fucking wish that happened. That'd be so
I-
funny.
I would love it so much. He just has to get another arm from Liquid.
Imagine if
Like-
in 3, the prequel game, he also got his arm cut off somehow.
Mm-hmm. Like, God, I love how, like, despite everything, he kind of is a jobber.
Yeah. But a jobber on
Like-
purpose.
He is, like, he's just, like, is he the smarmiest villain in this game, in the series?
Probably. God, what a fucking... That would be so good. I wish it was true.
Do you think, like, when the Patriots were planning all of this, like, what do you want to think, like, that came up in the discussion of just, like, okay, so we're gonna, we're gonna have to have the heart attack thing that happened at Shadow Moses. You're gonna need to, like, have a little encounter with him, maybe mix the Cyborg Ninja in, hey, Ocelot, what do you say about, getting your arm cut off again?
No!
Dude, we found out that you can just take Liquid's arms. Like, what's another one?
I don't want to do that. I went through so much for you already. I'm not getting another arm cut off.
Like, I do
need
just
to be
like
perfect for my snake.
I do like the idea of just Liquid specifically vetoing that one little detail.
I subjected myself to so much, even hypnotherapy for you, but no more arms getting cut off. None! So, fucking... It is the president next, right?
You meet, next is Solidus and the jet fight.
Oh, awesome. So Solidus's introduction is fucking awesome.
He does an Armstrong within the suit.
He does.
Which was very funny to me.
He does. Armstrong was not the first to do it. It's so good. Solidus is a really cool villain. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's really, really interesting.
I like him more than Liquid.
You know, that's kind of fair. Like, Liquid is kind of, at least for now, like, he is just a cartoon villain.
He is.
Whereas Solidus is, like, is a much more complex character.
He's kind of the good guy.
Yeah, we can talk about that near the end.
Like, kinda.
I will say, you know, another, I would say this fight is where I started this is where I started catching on that this might be more intentional about the,
Repeats.
About the repeats. Because now you're doing the Hind D fight again, and I will say,
It's much better this time.
I enjoyed this so much more than the Hind D fight. I really love the parts of the fight where it starts off like super far away and you're kind of playing chicken with it until you can get a shot off on it. It's just it feels with kind of the practice from the rest of the game of the more vertical combat that they were able to do this concept so much better.
Oh, now you also got to see the "No, that is not Solid Snake."
Yes, how could I forget the classic line?
The classic line. To be used forever.
That is not Solid Snake! I love it. Like, it's funny. It's such a funny line because, like, he's talking about himself in, like, the third person.
He's still trying to keep the act up, you know, for some fucking reason.
Yeah, well, because I feel like, doesn't Raiden suspect him at this point?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Gotta say, I like Pliskin's design. I like his hair. I think Snake looks nice with that hair.
Mm-hmm. He's got the little, he's got, like, little tiny curtain bangs.
Mm-hmm. He looks good. He's very handsome.
Lots of guys with long hairs in this franchise.
Yeah. We even get to ponytails at some point. But, go ahead.
I also like that Vamp was piloting the Hind D. Like, he's just like, yeah, I'm here. It's time for more Vamp.
I also like how Vamp and Fortune are dating. I just think that's nice.
They're dating?
They are. He calls her queen. They love each other.
I thought that was just like a code name. Like,
no, they actually love each other.
Huh. That's interesting. It's interesting that Fortune would like Vamp with him just being like an indiscriminate murderer.
Yeah, he's hot.
Because I got the idea that Fortune was more, like, driven to it by, like, grief, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. She's definitely a more sympathetic villain than Vamp.
Because, well, doesn't Fortune mention having, like, a husband and kids at some point that died?
Yes. So yeah, I really do like that Hind D fight in this game. It's fun. I like flipping downstairs.
I adore when the plane crashes and Vamp gets out of the plane and starts running on the water.
Because why not? Why not? He can do that.
Like, I'm surprised.
That shit is so fucking funny, dude. I love that.
And then he starts running up the strut itself.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm so surprised that never got turned into, like, one of those, like, me when she says I can come over memes.
Damn, I should really make that now. Vamp is so fucking goofy, bro. Christ. He, like, flamenco dances all over the place and shit. What a Kojima-ass character.
Like, even though I prefer Foxhound overall, like, he might be my favorite of the new ones. Like, I think he may I think he is better than most of Foxhound.
Yeah. I wonder how you'll like the 3 ones. Ricky, do you remember their name?
The group?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
They're named after emotions. It's whatever. They're fun. They're great. Gameplay wise,
Yeah,
they're
I
the
love
best
them.
ones. Easy.
Hmm.
Like it's they kind of clear the other bosses. Well,
So-
we'll get there.
After the Hindy fight, we have a little platforming section.
It's so funny. I fucked it up so bad the first time, bro. Every time I fell and Raiden just It's so funny.
Yeah, like, is this game like 8-directional or omnidirectional?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't remember.
Because, like, you have to really take your time.
Oh yeah.
Like, I had, especially with that jump, that required jump, during the section, I had to, like, go in first person to line it up.
That's awesome.
Which,
you know,
that may have been the intention.
I also love those trick platforms where they fall from beneath you.
Yeah.
They're so funny. I know that was in 1 too, and they were funny there, and they're just as funny here.
Oh yeah, I mentioned this in the previous video, but it's like, yeah, Kojima's a little prankster.
He is, and it's great.
Because they also do the thing where it's like, you get the, like, codec calls one step before you walk into an explosive in this game.
Yes, it's so great. Oh, I can't wait to talk about the... we'll get there. So what's after the platforming bit?
Let's see. Oh, is this when... I think meeting the president is up next. You meet President of the United States, who is apparently bisexual, I guess.
No.
You meet him and he just immediately...
Well, he grabs you, and then he goes, "You're a man?" So he thought he was gonna die, and he was like, "I'm gonna grope this woman before I die," is what I think is supposed to be happening there. I'm gonna take this as commentary from Kojima, saying U.S. presidents are horrible perverts. I'm just gonna go with that.
Well, you know, Herbert Hoover was a known racist, Ransom.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm aware. I'm going to take it as a commentary by Kojima and not him being like, haha, isn't this funny?
To be honest, it may be kind of both.
I know.
Like, it feels like this may be one of those moments where it's like, they couldn't tell him no, like, every single time. It's like, give him just this one. Give him the one scene.
You know, he really wanted to do a bunch of period stuff with Emma.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know.
I guess I now know why there's so few scenes with her.
I fucking hate Kojima sometimes.
It's...
Do you want me to tell you what it would be? It's fucking horrible. So, it's 2 things. It would start, you first meet Emma, and Raiden notices there's blood coming from her, and he's like, "Oh god, are you hurt? Are you okay?" And she's like, "No, no, I'm okay." And Raiden would realize, like, oh, I see. And then, when she dies, Raiden would be like, "Emma, you're not okay. We have to get you, we have to fix you," or whatever, right? And she'd be like, "No, it's okay. I'm on my period." And those would be her those would be her last words. I'm not shitting you.
Oh my god. That is
Isn't that
awful.
the worst ever? Doesn't that fucking suck?
Is that why was that period scene going to essentially be what happens instead of her pissing herself?
No, she still would have pissed herself.
The conversations we have.
Just his staff, at that one in particular, I guess, was like, Hideo, no. No!
Now, let's also be honest here. Metal Gear protagonists.
Mm-hmm.
Solid Snake, Raiden, Big Boss.
Okay.
For each of them,
Mm-hmm.
do you think either of them... Do you think they know what periods are?
Raiden does.
And how they work?
Raiden knows what they are and how they work. Big Boss does not know what they are, nor does he know how they work. And Solid Snake is somewhere in the middle.
Solid Snake probably knows what they are,
yes,
but doesn't have like the best knowledge on like how they work.
I agree. You could ask pretty much anything, and that's going to be the same answer for those three. Raiden is a normal human. Well, he's not normal, but he's a normal guy who knows things. Big Boss thinks Santa Claus is real. And Solid Snake is somewhere in between.
I've seen like there's a genre video of just like a woman goes around and interviews a bunch of random guys about like little factoids about like feminine biology.
Mm-hmm.
And just you get to hear some wild answers.
Dog.
I love them so much because it is always the funniest thing ever.
It's funny, but it's really sad. Like, if I think about them at all, like what it means for this many people to be like this, it upsets me greatly, you know? So, Christ.
Mm-hmm. Of now, Big Boss, doesn't know. Big Boss probably doesn't know what they are.
Okay.
But like, I feel like if he did know, he would be in the like, what size is your pussy?
What
box?
size pussy you got?
On the meme of like, you get texted by like your girlfriend to get like tampons before coming home.
Yes.
Oh my god.
It's really good these characters are gay. Jack is the only one who could manage being straight. And he is.
Like, man, Snake tried, and he was just like, nope.
I can't do it.
Doesn't work for me.
Also, David Hayter's been asked, like, which Snake do you prefer to voice? And he's like, oh, I prefer Solid Snake by a wide margin. And it's like, why? And he's like, because Big Boss is a fucking dipshit.
It is really... It's so funny seeing, like, people like Solid Snake, because, like, oh, he's, like, a badass and stuff. It's like, no, he's, like, silly.
He's a goofy guy. He's hammy.
Like, I said this in the previous episode, he really sounds like a parody of an action movie character in a lot of places.
Switching sides. I don't recall ever saying I was on yours. Like... Bro did not have to say all that. He's so fucking... I love Snake. I love him a lot. But poor Raiden.
Back to the president.
Yes. That's the first real big establishment of the Patriots.
Yeah, and it's also, like... I know some of the lore about this game of how, like... Because it... Like, there was supposed to be that scene, with Metal Gear Ray... kind of destroying New York.
It was actually Metal Gear, not Excelsis. The thing Big Shell actually is.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Metal Gear... Hold on. Because Excelsius is the one from Rising,
That's
right?
Rising. That's what Armstrong pilots. It's called... I think it starts with an A.
Arsenal. Metal Gear Arsenal.
Arsenal Gear. That's what it's called. Arsenal Gear. It's Arsenal that crashes into the...
Statue of Liberty?
No, it's not the Statue of Liberty. It might be. I don't know. It got cut, you know?
But yeah, so it's interesting knowing that like that was cut because of 9/11, yet like they keep the scene in which like a US president one begs to die on screen after like admitting to Raiden how much of a horrible person he is,
Yep.
and then getting shot and dying on screen.
And then an ex-US president also dying via sword wound. 2 presidents die in this game. And then you kill a US senator in revengeance. I love Metal Gear so much.
Man, I wonder what Kojima thinks about American politics.
You gotta wonder. You gotta wonder. I think he loves them. I think he's a true patriot. But yeah, speaking
really
of
gonna
patriots,
make America great again.
I can't believe he did that before Trump. Like, God, all fucking.
Well, apparently it was a Reagan thing.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Which it makes sense because, in a lot of ways, Trump is like kind of Reagan too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, and this is where we start getting the whole. This is where we start learning about the Patriots.
So I will say, I did watch the Jacob Geller Something Rotten podcast about MGS1 and 2, and a worry they had about this speech was
QAnon.
Well, it's just gonna be a secret, like, group of people who, once we kill them, everything will be fine again. It's not the United States that's at fault or anything. It's just
Snake. We need to sneak into the Bohemian Grove.
It's just these like 5 or 6 people or 10, whatever, and that's it. Then everything will be fixed. And it's like I never thought about that. I never had that worry, mostly because I was a child, and I did, glean enough as a child from the end to where I was like, yeah, it's the Patriots like are the U.S. They're a symptom of the fucking disease. So I just, replaying it, I never had that worry. I never saw it as like, oh, they're gonna take the easy way out on this political theming. But I do I'm like, huh, that's interesting that a smart adult would see that scene and think that that's the direction the story is going.
It's because we've dealt with we have had like conspiracy theorists essentially in like public media discourse for the entirety of our lives.
Oh yeah.
Alex Jones has been doing stuff since like we were like
little.
Since like probably before we even started school. So it's
yes.
Like it is really funny to think about it with like kind of the modern like global like modern like globalist conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And like it's interesting to kind of see like where Kojima was like on the mark in some cases and where like it honestly didn't really pan out the way he was like talking about in this game. It's like it's also kind of hard to make it distinct from like every other secret society type antagonist that like because that is just like it's kind of played out today and like in today's standards. And I do feel like the stuff they do near the end of the game like really helps.
Oh, it absolutely helps. I mean, yeah, we'll get to it when we get there.
I do also like the president's motivation basically being like the realization that he is a pawn. And the fact that it's like Solid Snake and Raiden are also kind of pawns in this game. Just kind of at the mercy of other like big forces. I think I will say it does sell the prowess of this kind of big organization by like we're kind of introduced to them via a character who has like tried throughout their entire life and is now like doing this kind of world-shattering event almost just to get into the Patriots proper.
Yeah.
And like even that's not enough.
No. It's the president is an interesting scene, without a doubt. There's a lot of character infused into all this exhibition, which is very good.
Mm-hmm. And just like, man, it is really interesting just to see like a president character whose entire focus is essentially just on their personal gain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's
kind of hard to talk about this scene without bringing up future stuff, so I'm cool to move on from it if you are.
I guess so. It's just like I'm thinking of later, even Metal Gear Rising, how you have the senator character, and it's like he kind of has to warm up to Raiden before he gets to the level that this guy is at. He still has essentially a kind of facade he puts on for the first like third of that fight before he goes mask off.
Yeah.
But no, this guy is just like, yeah, no, this has always been like a power thing for me.
So after the president is probably Shell 2, I imagine, right?
I thought President is part of Shell 2 because he's in the Shell 2 core, right?
Okay.
So I will say, let me use the restroom real quick.
We're back.
Okay, so there is one last thing during that little break we took that I thought about with the Patriots. Is when we were being introduced with them, I guess there is this idea I have with like secret society type organizations that, you know, kind of control a country from the shadows, and like comparing that to real life, and it's like it doesn't like manifest in the way that people like think it does, but it's like there are people with like enormous amounts of power in the US who are able to like influence politics, which like they're billionaires. Like it's the people who make like so much money and have like and own companies that are big enough to essentially like lobby and give money to politicians and just be like, hey, if you don't support our business interests, and like, you know, put through a bunch of like tax policies that will let us take tax breaks, you know, we'll just stop donating. And so it's like it is interesting to kind of look and think about like how you can have these ideas of a secret society that kind of controls politics from the shadows, but also like contrasting it with how it is in stories and like how it can like work in real life essentially. Like, I mean, just like the layout of our country, like we don't have good public transport, partly because like the automobile industry gave a ton of money to politicians back after like World War II or something. It's just, you know, there is always this, I guess, kind of conspiratorial bent, especially in like spy thrillers. And it is just interesting to see how that manifests in real life and how people will kind of, I guess, I'm having a hard time putting into words, but like how that tendency will be kind of manifested and used in much more toxic ways of like, you know, when you see people talking about secret societies in the US, it's always like in a very like, let's be honest, like there's always and this is like an issue for story writers, is like you kind of have to make sure it's not starting to resemble the kind of like anti-Semitic bent in these conspiracy theories, because like that's one that has existed for like thousands of years, really.
Yeah, I will definitely give Metal Gear this. It doesn't come across that way at all. Like, I think they threaded that needle perfectly. It's because it's not a secret society. It's an AI, you know?
Yeah, and like my ideas on this kind of get a little more clear when we get into the actual like information control stuff,
Yes.
but that'll be near the end.
Yeah. So what's after President?
I think that's when you go and find Emma, I believe.
I think you're right. So people get really people don't like the Emma thing. I think it's fine. I think the swimming and escorting her, it's there's nothing wrong with it.
I think the swimming is fine. It's just some of those places where you come up for air have edges, and you have to position yourself.
Yeah. I'll also say, Ricky saw this while trying to figure out how to grab her hand. I accidentally punched her in the face.
Oh my god.
So that's my bad. My V.
He did punch that kid for sure.
I will say it's a better swimming section than a lot of games have.
Yeah, I think the swimming controls are pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, and you know, you meet Emma. She demonstrates
herself.
she demonstrates that she's a true Emmerich by pissing herself immediately.
Yes, very good. She's
just
not on her period, thank God. You get the Peter Stillman dead body jump scare. That's pretty fun.
Yeah,
I don't know why I called it fun.
Emma is. I will say, I think Emma is a very odd character because, like, more than Stillman, like, her presence in the story does very much like feel rushed.
Yeah,
I feel like you don't get much in the way of like characterization and development from her. It's like it really does remind me of a lot of the character arcs in Death Stranding, which are just so compressed and rushed. And it's like, wow, this isn't like a problem just with Kojima's more recent stuff. Like this has been a problem even in the days like where people like were allowed to tell him no and allowed to like make suggestions.
She feels like a tool for Otacon's character progression more than anything.
Yeah. And so how do you feel about I will say I do like it is funny that they have like a little it's funny that they have a little like escort mission session where you have to get her through the water and to like actually hold her hand to drag her through. Like it's like a real escort mission.
Yeah, I will say those bombs, the mines that are in the water, are so fucking cartoonish that it's hilarious.
It's so funny.
They're literally just floating circular mines. It's a goddamn cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and also the vamp fight. That vamp fight's really fun.
What, the sniper fight or the real fight?
The water fight.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it's kind of crazy of Kojima to be expecting people to hit those knives out of the air.
I do like my favorite thing he does is probably when he throws the knife at your feet and you have to shoot it to move again.
Yeah.
That's really fun. That's really good use of the first person. As far as the boss fights go, he's probably the best use of first person aiming.
Yeah, it really does feel like
him or Olga.
Yeah. It is fun for them to kind of give you the experience of fighting him that you were kind of getting in that like first cutscene.
Yeah.
And it's like a nice like, oh, look at how Raiden's grown throughout the game, where you can go toe to toe with Vamp now, where like as at the beginning of the game, Vamp totally got the drop on him.
He doesn't feel terribly nerfed in the boss fight either. It feels like you're fighting Vamp, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he is doing crazy shit the whole time. That's great that Vamp's
it
theme is playing while we're talking about this. Perfect timing.
It is. I also will say, like, there's some funny things with, like, him and water, because, you know, there's the whole thing of, like, the whole, like, legend of, like, vampires can't cross, like, running water.
I'd never do that.
And, like, that both does and doesn't happen for him. Like, you know, he runs on the ocean and can, like, dive down into the water, but when you, quote-unquote kill him at the end of that boss fight, he falls into the water, like, saturated with oxygen that you kind of sink into.
Probably the best boss fight in the game, I'll say.
Oh, also, is it just me, or, like, is the idea of that just terrifying?
What?
The water that is so saturated with oxygen that you just sink. Like, you cannot swim in it.
Yeah, that's awful. Yeah, that's terrifying. Yeah, that would fucking suck. So, Emma.
How do you feel about the whole, like, story with her and Otacon?
So, I'm gonna be real. I think Huey makes that a lot better, because it retroactively just turns the story into a furthering of, wow, Huey's a bastard.
So, Huey, I guess he factors into the story in, like, some way that I don't know later on.
Kinda. It's not in a major way to do with this specifically, but it's just like the Emmerich family is fucked, and it's mostly Huey's fault.
Yeah, like, Emma has some charming moments, and I do feel like she needed more development, but, like, man, at the end of all of this, I was just like, poor Otacon. Like,
also, but hey,
you can just not have bad stuff.
Hey, did you know that chopsticks in your hair are a fashionable thing? People criticize that form of writing. I will never criticize that.
I'm sorry, that's fun.
Moby Dick, JoJo, Metal Gear. I don't care how much you divulge. I don't care how much you divert from the core story to just fucking info dump on me. I'll love it every time.
People have weird quirks like that.
I fucking love it. I'll never not love it. Every time in JoJo, when Joseph just starts going like, hey, here's how haggling works, I'm like, fuck yeah, teach me. It's great. I'll never not love that. Anyway, sorry for cutting you off. I had to get that joke in there before we stopped talking about Emma.
Yeah, I mean, the chopsticks thing, like, I think it works.
It's cute. It's good.
It does actually make her feel like Otacon's sister.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you have this whole, like, melodrama thing with Otacon. Well, actually, before that,
you know,
before that, you do have the little Emma sniper section.
Yeah, be honest. Did you have Snake cover for you?
I did, but kind of by accident. I thought it was going to be like, you call him in and he does it like 1 or 2 times.
Nah, he just.
I didn't know it would just be he starts playing the mission for you.
Yep. That's some real giving your little brother the other controller but not plugging it in type beat. But honestly, like, as far people do look at the Emma stuff and like, what is this incest plot in my Metal Gear? What the fuck? And it's just like, I don't really look at it like that. Like, I don't see it as Kojima just adding some shit for just to be weird. It's like, no, Otacon has sexual trauma from his family. Like, as if he wasn't traumatized. Like, this is more berserk than anything else. This is just like, no, this is a tortured character.
Yeah, I was gonna hold off until we kind of got to the end of the section, but like, speaking about the ways in which Kojima kind of feels like he's matured a little bit from the first game and like is kind of finger on the pulse a lot, like kind of ahead of his time in some ways of just like, yeah, no, Otacon was like groomed by his like adopted mother and is like a victim of, I don't know the exact ages, but he probably got like statutory raped.
Oh, he was very young.
And like it's interesting in that like, you know, this was absolutely in the time of like, if you were a guy and this thing happened to you, like you would not be comfortable like talking about it
at all.
Like
ever.
it's interesting for the game to like kind of allow him to be a victim in that way and like recognize that it's like a really bad thing. Yeah, it's not a joke at all.
It's not a, they never make a joke about it, and that's really good. People within the community do sometimes make jokes about it, and it's like, hey man, it's actually really fucked up. Like,
yeah,
don't do that.
And it is interesting also to see it kind of as this was before. They handle it very gracefully for like a point in time in which like, you know, Otacon, the age he's at and the time he's at, like would not have had the words to describe it the way we would today. Like it's very realistic for him to like the word he uses is he said he was like seduced.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, a person in that day and age like would have seen it as like, this is a bad thing that I did. But instead of like being able to recognize themselves as a victim. So it's like, I think it was just like very thoughtfully done for like the time it was at. And
I agree. The only
it is still so weird to see Kojima kind of
mess it up sometimes, even today.
Yeah.
I will say one thing I understand criticizing about it. What does this have to do with the rest of the plot?
It kind of doesn't.
It doesn't. And thematically, I even have a hard time kind of fitting it in with everything else.
Thematically, I mean, I think it kind of goes in again with the idea of like deceptions and lies like you tell yourself.
It fits in more of like the Peter Stillman kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and it's there are some lies in here that I can't. Well, yeah, like Otacon has the thing of like saying like, you know, he abandoned her, and we find out that's like wrong in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
And just
actually,
like,
you know, that did make me realize something. Peter Stillman lied to himself to make him feel better. Otacon lied to himself to make him feel worse.
Yeah, to make him feel worse. I mean, that kind of goes in as well with like the whole sexual assault thing that happens with him. Like, it's even nowadays, like some people are more comfortable with framing it as like a bad thing that they did rather than being someone who was victimized, especially guys.
Taking ownership of it somehow.
Yeah. And like,
I hope Snake and Otacon had a long talk after this game. I think Snake yeah.
Yeah, and it's also interesting that despite this game being in the canon of Meryl surviving,
mm-hmm.
Emma kind of acts as the bad ending of like you are unable to save someone. It even is like part of a sniper section.
That is true. I
also will say, like, I was like mortified in the first few seconds of that cutscene because I thought it was essentially like, oh, you shot her.
Yeah, Jesus, that'd be awful.
Which like, but it is interesting that like there's no option to save her. There's no like way to do it. It almost makes you wonder like, well, actually, yeah, that maybe the Patriots want someone who maybe they see like someone who's had that relationship severed, or with that like guilt, I guess, be someone who is easier to control. I don't know, because I mean, that is like Snake kind of breaks down in MGS1 if you don't save Meryl.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they were wanting someone who does break down in that way. It's interesting to think about, like, just the granularity of but then again, I'm thinking like they could have planned for Emma, but it was Otacon that they weren't. It's Otacon and Snake that they weren't planning for. So Emma is still within the parameters of it.
Yeah, I agree that Snake and Otacon were not part of the plan. But yeah, absolutely heart-wrenching cutscenes.
Mm-hmm. And also, man, like that part in the cutscene where, like, even before the flashback, where when Emma dies, you just start hearing like the wolves howling in the background.
Mm-hmm. Just to rub salt in the wound.
Like, man, Otacon just cannot stop having horrible things happen to him, and like, it's also sad knowing. It's also like, even in the day, it's like sad when you think about like, oh, hey, remember Foxdie being a thing, and like Otacon is eventually going to like absolutely lose Snake.
Poor fucking Otacon, man.
Mm-hmm.
But hey. He's got a really cool handshake with Snake, though.
He does have a really good handshake, and they do the cool guy walkout.
That fucking shot, man.
I will say it was a little weird for them to just leave Emma's body, exactly where it was in that room, as like the area is about to flood. Like it's kind of like an almost poetic tragedy or cruelness, because like Emma has that fear of the water, and like her body is essentially going to end up sinking with Arsenal. It's
dude, Emma's so fucking sad, like Christ.
What a cursed character.
No kidding.
Yeah, like even past the part that like, what, it wasn't like her dad tried to drown her or something?
Something like that. I forgot that detail. I don't know. I don't remember, I'm sorry. And
man, the end of that scene where like Hal starts hearing the bird.
Yes, God. And he starts breaking
Emma's
down
words.
Again.
Like, I do, like, I think part of that is really why I like Otacon so much, and why he's like probably my favorite character, because like, yes, he is kind of the like nerdy, like, you know, just like my Japanese animes, but he's like has this like genuine sensitivity to him, and it's really cool to see the game like not completely crush that. Yes. You know, like he is still like someone who at the end of it all like is good. I feel like he's a character who's like at the end of it all has managed to get out on the other side, like still maintaining that kind of like, if not innocence, like idealism.
Yes. He's just as much of a hero as Snake and Raiden is, as they are.
Yeah.
So after that, we get Nakey Raiden time.
Nakey Raiden time.
Before that, we get the torture, but it's much easier.
You get like the biggest, probably the like, if you didn't notice it by now, like this is the moment where they just start slamming you over the head.
Yeah.
Oh, and also one last thing about it. I do like that little exchange with Raiden and Snake, where Raiden's like, hey, is he gonna be okay? And like, you know, Snake believes in him.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Now, Snake Snake is so cool in this game. He's so good to his friends.
Even when he's being a grouch, you can kind of tell, like, he's smiling a bit on the inside.
There's a lot of love in that man now.
Yeah. And I will say, with the torture scene, when that started, when I saw where I was just like, oh no! No! You are going to make me do this again?
But they don't, not really.
They don't. They do it, like, once for a little bit. Just enough to, like, scare you.
It's really funny.
It is.
But yes, oh, did you get back on the thing and get the Shinji shot of the dick being covered by the straw?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, if you get back on the torture thing, the camera zooms out and Raiden's junk is being covered up by like a drinking straw.
That's really funny. You know, Ava definitely did have a bit of influence on this series.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, and you get the, this is also where you get the big reveal that Raiden used to be a child soldier. And also, like, I forgot to mention I think along with Otacon, I think this game does have quite a bit to say about how, like, particularly guys are, like, and the way they're socialized in our society with its kind of expectations it has for people, like, the way guys are raised makes them very ill-equipped to, like, handle trauma in a lot of situations.
Oh yeah.
It's like the way Otacon kind of continues to blame himself because he was, like, never, taught that, like, he was never kind of taught that it would be bad if someone did that to him. And also, like, the way Raiden just has that blank room in his apartment.
How my god, I fucking love that shit.
I wanted to bring that up.
Thank you for bringing it up. Nah, bro, we gotta talk about that. The fact that could happen just at any save, just that happens when you save the game, and they just start going, and it's Rose is like, Raiden, you're just so scary. I went in your room and there was nothing in there. And just the thought of Raiden having actually nothing in there, bro.
A male living space.
A male living space, truly. It's so fucking funny.
It's funny, but it's also, like, really sad in context.
Yeah.
It's just Josh's room.
It is. It is.
It is.
That's not a joke, by the way. Josh, like, we'll stream each other's cameras on Discord calls sometimes, and behind Josh is just an empty void of nothing but carpet. There's
no furniture. There's just, like, an e-bike in the corner sometimes. We don't even know if he has a bed, to be honest.
We don't know that. Like, imagining Rose's moment of horror as she enters the room and it's just fucking carpet, bro.
It's Josh sitting on the floor eating canes.
God, I love that shit.
But I do like that Raiden is, like, so traumatized that, like, he can't even bear to, like, sleep beside Rose at night. Because, like, he is just so, like, scared of, like, losing her, I guess. And just, like...
He's a fucked up guy. Like, severely fucked up.
Like, he is someone who has, like, vacated parts of himself because he is afraid of it being taken away. And, like, that imagery of the empty room, I think, is just, like, such an important part of Raiden's character.
Well, it's part of the whole thing of being a blank canvas. Both thematically and literally, it is a blank canvas, and Raiden choosing to dehumanize himself so much not only made him so easily victimized by the Patriots, but even just going into the military. People like Raiden who have no identity, who have no purpose, that's what the military tries to recruit so much of the time. Just like, yeah, you would really love to be told what to do and feel cool about it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because, like, that also, it works in a lot of situations. Like, part of the allure of the military is that, like, it is something that makes you feel like part of something greater, to the point where, like, even people who just have, like, desk jobs in the military get, like, depression after they leave because there's such a strong sense of, like, routine and community, and, like, it is kind of its own isolated world. And it takes, like, a lot of effort for people sometimes to, like, readjust to normal life afterwards.
I fucking hate the military.
Yeah, it's like, it's really interesting to think about. And, you know, going back to the whole idea of, like, stories and lies we make for ourselves, like, it's interesting with the Raiden thing as well, because it's like, what do you think would have hurt Rose more? Like, doesn't she even say, like, I would have rathered you were just cheating on me
Something
than,
like that,
like,
yeah.
to find out you, like, had this room where you did not allow anything in? And, you know, it's also kind of a interesting, like, almost realistic kind of, like, sometimes the answers you get aren't, like, satisfying. Like, in real life, like, people will just have these, like, things they carry around that aren't, like, glamorous or, like, dramatic. It's just things that have happened to them that really, really suck, and a lot of times they just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. I do feel as though Raiden finally confessing a lot of this stuff to Rose is both a symptom of him really breaking down. Partly from Emma's death, partly from all the insane shit that's been going on, and partly he thinks Snake, like, fucking betrayed him, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just after all this stuff, this broken man is pouring his heart out to the one person who he thinks will listen. And then it gets used against him so soon after.
Like, instantly.
And it fucking sucks. It's so rough. Like, Raiden is such an abused fucking character.
Yeah, because, like, just... Man, it makes it a lot more personal. I'd known that Solidus had the whole, like, child soldier thing going on, but it's done so much more personally in this game than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be, like, kind of just something mentioned off to the side. Like, for some reason, I knew Raiden had been a child soldier, and I knew that, like, Solidus used child soldiers, but I never connected the dots in my head until playing this game. I didn't know, like, that's how they were going to tie it together.
Yeah. Kojima really fascinated with child soldiers and just how that fucks people up. And this is probably the most effectively he ever portrays it.
Well, I think it's also, like, it's really tying into the ideas of, like, freedom and stuff, of how, like, Solidus is kind of this character that he claims to want to reignite, you know, American freedom and, you know, bring back, like, those principles that the country is founded on, yet he himself has violated other people's freedom in just about the worst way you can do it, by using child soldiers.
It's
like,
the big boss genes, he just can't help it.
Yep, it's the big boss genes, but it's like, it's, you know, like, really, when you think about it, it's, you know, he took a child. He would take children, people who don't really have agency in our world, who, like, rely on other people until they can grow up and learn things, and he abused that need to like run this, like, as we find out at the end, kind of run this like sick experiment on Raiden.
Yeah. So once we're let free of the chains, then we get Nakey Raiden time, and within Nakey Raiden time is probably one of the most iconic moments in all of gaming. The Colonel AI starts going batshit insane. The walls around you start becoming code. And the Patriots, the AI. Well, doesn't it have a name?
EM.
Yeah, EM starts letting loose, and god fucking damn, man, if
tells you like turn off your game console and stuff.
If that's not an effective sequence, I don't know what is. I mean, some of it's
was almost
go ahead.
Like when he said like turn off your game console, I kind of tensed up because I was almost expecting it to do like a
Psychomantis.
A Psychomantis type fake out where like the console resets.
That'd be sick. Some of the things the AI says is really funny. Like, hey man, I'm sorry you had to pay for dinner, by the way. I'm not in a great financial situation
because of the divorce.
That one's really funny.
The one where he's talking about getting abducted by aliens.
Yep.
And
there's also the one where he lists off all the train stations in Japan.
Yeah.
Like
yes,
and like really fast.
That's really. So is the alien one supposed to be a reference to Snatcher?
It might be. I wouldn't be surprised. And just the in the codec, like he starts turning into a skeleton and turning around and shit, and it's just you're so used to things being the way they are that when it starts changing like that, it's like, ugh. This feels like a personal invasion.
It's also like there's even like Rose. They get like an AI version of Rose to come in and like they just start saying
or Rose was an AI the whole time. Like going off simulation theory, that's very possible.
Yeah, like I don't know exactly like where the moment would be. Like, isn't there a moment where like he says like, you know, keep going or we'll kill Rose, and like Rose like talks about like, oh, there are people coming into the room.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm guessing like that's where it's like switches over.
Probably.
But like even with the AI stuff and going crazy, like they do some low blows with Raiden of just like like during one of the breakdowns, Colonel says like, oh yeah, hey Raiden, I probably shouldn't. I don't know when it'd be a good time to say this, but like I saw like another guy at Rose's place.
Yeah, they call him a cuck. They call him a fucking cuck and a bitch, and it's just so funny. Like, Raiden is verbally abused throughout this entire game, and it only gets worse as it goes.
Like,
it's so fucking legendary, man. Also, I just remembered two things from my childhood. Is one, while I was playing the game, one of my parents walked by and a cutscene was playing, and they went, "Do you ever get to play this game?" Which is
because the codec calls are like non-stop at this
they're
point.
So oh my god.
And
dude,
then
yeah.
when my parents walked by while during the Ryan, you should turn the game console off, and they were like, "I think you should do that. You have been on for a long time."
So it was really funny for me because I like during my session I stopped with the very beginning of Naked Raiden. Like you get off of you get unstuck from the platform, and you know I was just like, okay, you know, I'll stop here for tonight. And so like it was funny because you know I get on and the game just starts immediately telling me to get off and that I've been playing for too long.
Yeah.
Which it would have been funny if I had kept going that night.
Yeah, that would have been a lot more effective probably, but it's fine.
But yeah, just
but we
so
get
many
to
like interesting calls. It's funny. The game kind of becomes Metal Gear Solid 1 in this like section, in the Naked Raiden section, because it's like, hey, here's one room of stealth before we get to like the other gameplay elements. Yeah. And also like a really long forced combat section where you're just shooting at guys repeatedly.
Those guys are so fucking tough, by the way. Those soldiers.
After a certain point I just started using the sword.
Yep.
On all of them.
But
also the sword, it's in 2.
Yeah, well hold on. We get to like the colon or whatever, and Snake is there in his full Metal Gear, like it is canon outfit, whatever. He gives you all your stuff back. He gives you a sword, and it's like, don't worry. If you run out of ammo, just ask for some of mine. Do you have enough? And Snake, not helping Raiden's mental state at all, points at his fucking forehead and goes, infinite ammo. And it's like, that was a very inappropriate thing to say at this moment, Snake. That definitely did not help Raiden.
That's probably another thing that people, like...
Simulation theory.
That's probably... Yeah, simulation theory, like Snake kind of like Snake got Otacon to hack him into the game or something.
Yeah.
And also, hey, with the sword, I understand why you get it so late, because it would have broken the game.
Yeah, it is very strong.
It's also hey, the way you control it, you use the stick.
Yeah, Revengeance
to like slash.
There were things to go off of.
Yeah, it's almost like they knew that, just like in Robot Alchemic Drive, the best way to attack is to use the analog sticks.
You're so right.
Instead of a button.
You're so right. Gotta say, I can't believe Revengeance was initially thought to be a Gray Fox game. I would hate that. Fuck Gray Fox. Absolutely fuck Gray Fox. I'm so glad it was Raiden.
I love that they always call... I love that even in the second game, they introduce it as Cyborg Ninja.
Yep.
Because it just sounds so silly in English.
Yes, it does. It does. I love it. But yeah, you're with Snake, you're back-to-back with Snake, fighting through guys with the legendary soldier, and you're like... It's a really cool moment.
And whoa, Ransom, what's happened? Whoa, I thought I had way more health than that. I couldn't get game overed from just one hit like that.
That was incredible timing. Are you watching my stream?
No.
Bro, the Fission Mailed song happened right when you said that. Like, not just Mission Failed, but Fission Mailed.
That's really interesting, Ransom. That's...
The Patriots.
It timed up so well, it's almost like we're in a simulation. But that got me
starts
good.
twirling a gun.
I did like that little third wall break.
Oh yeah,
it was very
that's
funny.
Great. Another simulation theory thing, of course. There's a lot of evidence. It's really easy to believe MGS2 is just in VR the whole time.
Because the Fish and Mailed thing makes a lot less sense than Psycho Mantis.
Yeah. So then you have the Ray fight. Were you worried that you'd have to fight that many Rays?
Well,
you have a monologue by Ocelot.
Right before the Ray fight,
or not Ocelot, is it Solidus?
Fortune comes in, and Snake's like, "Don't worry, Raiden, I'll take care of this."
He did not, in fact, have this.
Yeah, spoiler alert. He absolutely doesn't. I love imagining what happened. Like, does he just surrender? Does he just like, yeah, no, I can't do this?
I imagine he takes 2 shots and he's just like, oh, okay, it ain't worth it. Otacon, what do you think I should do?
I gave the sword to Raiden. Why did I do that?
Why did I give the fucking sword to Raiden? Anyway, take me away, Fortune. So yeah, monologue by Solidus and Ocelot.
And then a pretty challenging fight with the Metal Gears.
Well, the monologue itself establishes some stuff.
Yeah.
The Triple S program, the Solid Snake simulation, which isn't what it actually is. Really
yeah,
explaining,
definitely some like
finally an
more
explanation for the fact that you've been repeating so many events from the first game.
Yeah, and like it isn't. Y- and that's a really interesting thing as well. So people make games. A kind of like documentary channel / journalism channel that like does stuff on the gaming industry. I haven't watched it, but they just put out a video essentially on like the U.S. military's attempts to like gamify their training. How like they literally have like war games that they play, like little board games to like try and train tactics and like brainstorm that kind of stuff. And like people pilot drones with Xbox controllers now. And
hey, you know what's
like
you know what? Let's also pilot submarines with those.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. It's also like weren't they like using a Wii like to do like shooting training or something at some point?
I don't know. I don't know. That sounds ridiculous, but I'd believe it.
But it's like it's kind of strange seeing it be like this on point so early in regards to that, and how like, you know, with the VR training and
it's
with
clearly something Kojima was thinking about a lot. You'll fucking see in 4, bro.
Yeah, just like
that shit came to a head.
If you can train someone to like see other people as enemies and just be okay with killing them, and if you can like use a game to do that, like I know like in Rising, that's a thing in Rising as well, like
It
how
very much is, yeah.
They have the child brains that they are like putting through war simulations
and giving them what's the good
dopamine
every time they kill something in the simulation,
which that still might be one of the most horrifying things in the series.
Oh yeah, that is goddamn insane, and yeah, that's awful. So yeah, you get the monologues about, you get a little more information about the Patriots, a little more information about what's been going on. You fight the Rays, that's very annoying. And then you get another example of what you were talking about way earlier with the ensemble, lots of people in a scene, with like Fortune, Ocelot, Solidus, Snake, and Raiden all there.
Yep. Well, I'd like to talk about the actual boss fight a little bit.
Go ahead.
I'll be honest, like, I saw the 3, and I was like, okay, I just have to beat 3 of them. That was not the case.
No.
I had to, it was like 6 or 7, and at the end, I was like low on health, I didn't have any rations left, and I was just like, how many of these are you wanting me to fight? And I'll be honest, it's probably one of the most successful, like, unwinnable boss fights that I've like seen, where like a game will have you do almost like a scripted fight that you're not supposed to win.
So I forget what it might be a time thing. It might be I'm pretty sure what it is you have to kill a certain amount of rays depending on what difficulty you're on.
That sounds right.
So you did technically win it, but it sure feels like an unwinnable boss fight, and that's great.
You don't destroy any of them. It's just you survive.
You can destroy the rays.
Can you?
Yeah, you shoot the leg and then you shoot the head.
I mean, yeah, I did that, but like, I guess it didn't feel like all 3 of them had just broken by the end.
But yeah, go ahead.
I did like discovering the combo of shooting them in the leg and then shooting them in the face. That was nice. And
the rays do scream, in that it's cool, and it's cool.
Yeah, and the fight is like pretty overwhelming, especially when they're all shooting those like tracking missiles at you.
Yeah, it's fucked. I had some trouble myself. Ricky remembers.
So, what difficulty were you playing on?
Normal.
Okay. but yeah, just it's a good end game challenge. I do wonder about people maybe kind of seeing this as like a, I don't know if jumping the shark is the right term, but just like you're getting much more over the top than it was previously. Because, you know, in the first game, you have that whole fight just to take down that one Metal Gear Rex. Whereas, like, you are fighting, like, 3 rays at a time in this game. It kind of makes them feel a little less powerful than they probably actually are.
Yeah, I can agree to that. I gotta piss real bad. I'll be right back.
Alright, you should make the Metal Gear Ray noise when you do it.
Okay.
Go on. It's, you destroy one of them. Okay. You destroy one Metal Gear Ray, and the other 2 are just kind of there. Like,
okay.
They close in on you as Olga comes in to help.
Alright. So, okay. Fortune fucking dies. No, Olga dies.
Olga dies.
And
Fortune also dies, but that's, you know, that's a few more minutes till that.
And then it's like, oh, Fortune, you stupid ass. It was nanomachines. Duh. And then, uh-oh, it wasn't. She's actually Lady Luck.
She's actually a psychic.
But
and then she dies.
Yeah. Simulation theory, another really easy thing to point at. And then Liquid takes over, very funnily. Takes the ray and dives.
Jobs once again.
Yep, Jobs once again. Snake breaks his fucking handcuffs. Purely with his strength.
Well, no, I think that the implication is, it's either when the ray or when Solidus is firing at one point. I think one of the bullets ricochets off the ground and like hits part of his handcuffs, so it's like partially damaged.
Okay. Well, Snake exits the picture. Both of the snakes exit the picture, and that just leaves Solidus and Raiden to. Well, they were gonna be a part of 9/11, but that got cut. So now we're just on top of the. What's the building called? Which one was it?
I can't even. The Federal Hall.
Yeah, they end up on top of Federal Hall. Don't know how.
And yeah, I had always like heard that like a scene got cut. I didn't know it was as like sudden.
Yeah, it's bad.
As this. Like, you can tell nowadays, if you know, that, like, something is missing there.
It really sucks. I bet that cutscene was really expensive.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, because otherwise, like, you know, they probably could have, like, you know, remade it if they had more than, like, what, a few weeks?
Yeah. God, poor souls. I really feel for them on that.
And you have this super long codec call with the GM.
And that finally explains what it's really all about. And it is not a secret society. It is not the Illuminati. It just is the US. It just exists because the US as a society manifested this thing.
It is quite literally a ghost in the machine.
And it starts talking about things that feel really prescient years later after this game has come out. Like, information control and this new age of humanity where suddenly, like, information used to be almost like genes would be like
it on, you know, you pick what you like, you know, it's the victor writes history. That's how it was for a long time. Like,
but now everything stays, and it's unprecedented. We don't know what that will mean for the future.
It is crazy. Like, it is just a wild west of information the way the internet is now, and it's like, it's interesting to think about how the internet has developed since then, because it's like back in those days, the way information was shared, like it was oftentimes on like message boards, on forums, like like specific communities that you would go to and join and would have a culture. But nowadays, that stuff's gone a lot of the time, and it's like it's Twitter, it's Facebook, it is like it's become even more of just like a roaring sea where you are besieged by like hundreds of voices at a time.
Yes.
And like there's a lot of criticism about how like the internet has developed in that way, of how like it the previous way of doing things was like more useful in some ways, and like you would have communities of experts and people interested in a specific thing, which means it'd be a lot easier to, you know, find information, to have like productive discussion. But also like it would absolutely also let you have like certain pockets of the internet where people just kind of cause each other to go insane. Like a lot of, you could say, like, I guess a lot of like early 4chan or like specific message boards that like fascists had, like you know, earlier on. And you know, it is interesting how like, you know, Solidus, it's either Solidus or the GM like specifically makes, when they start talking about like the truths that we create for ourselves, like it kind of reminds me of that, of how like you would just have like these pockets of the internet that were like sinking into conspiracy and just radicalizing each other. And it's also like, what's weird is that whole idea of the internet also like hasn't gone away completely, because like when you use like Twitter, it kind of auto separates people into camps already, kind of, and that like
creating context.
If you are someone who engages more with like left-leaning stuff, it will kind of just stop showing you right-leaning voices, or at least it used to before a certain someone got the website. But it's also like if you were like super conservative, like that's also like the whole like fascism pipeline thing. I think that's kind of a form of this, of how like you engage with certain content, and so it starts recommending more of that content, kind of like creating a kind of narrative, leading you to kind of create a narrative from the information that you're shown and the information you're not shown. And it's like there are conversations to have about censorship and about like certain information getting deleted, but it's also like, you know, it's not like we're having an all-knowing AI or like the spirit of America creating our context and like filtering information, what's allowed and what's not. No, it's just rich assholes doing it now. Like Elon Musk buys Twitter and then decides that he doesn't want certain like things to be said, certain pictures to be posted. And like he just gets to make that decision for like his own interests.
Nightmare.
Like I have to wonder which is like actually worse. Like this kind of government censorship that this series is like kind of hinting at, or like what we have now, where it's just kind of just this one guy who stumbled into owning the website. Like,
things haven't gone exactly the way Kojima thought they might, but
yeah,
they're definitely similar, or at least a sideways step, you know? But I still think his ultimate answer to all of it is still beautiful, and I think retroactively makes Metal Gear Solid 1 a lot more... have a deeper, better message, you know? I guess we gotta talk about Solidus real quick. He explains how he's actually the good guy, and, you know, kind of is. But...
like as I mentioned earlier, he does claim to fight for these ideas of freedom, yet he is also like engaging in like restrictions of other people's freedoms at the same time.
Well, that's Raiden has had two antagonists in the series, and they both had half of a point. And what's great about Raiden is both times he saw the good in what they were trying to do, but could differentiate the good from the bad. And he takes that and goes forward trying to do right for the world, you know? And I think that's really cool that Raiden, of any of the main characters, is the one to do that, because it's the one time his nature as a blank canvas can be used for good, is he can take good ideas from Solidus, from Solid Snake to Otacon to Rose to anyone,
and
carry them
we
forward.
can just if we do a like Rising video, I don't know how I really feel about the idea of Raiden taking stuff from Armstrong.
You know,
like,
to be fair to you on that, he kind of already has decided that stuff before he even fights Armstrong.
I feel like what happens more is that like he wholeheartedly rejects Armstrong, but like Armstrong's worldview is so circular that he is just like, okay, well, even if you reject me, like I'll still think that you're acting within like my framework.
I more see Armstrong as a dark reflection of Raiden, where it's like, if you decide to do this, if you decide to fight your own battles, like you have your own war to fight, this is what you could become. Armstrong is ultimately like a warning for Raiden more than anything.
I guess so, but I think it's specifically the interaction of just like, at the end of the day, it's like Raiden fights to protect people, but even if he kills Armstrong in order, to essentially protect the world, Armstrong is like, yes, this is still an example of the strong triumphing over the weak, because you were strong, this is your battle that you get to fight. Like, your battle is the one that wins in the end.
It's more an issue of accidentally validating the villain, but I don't think that's gonna make Raiden, like, lose sleep at night,
Yeah.
It's definitely much more. I think Raiden does actually get things from Solidus, while with Armstrong it's more just like, for fuck's sake. But yes, Raiden kills Solidus in the sword fight. It's a good final boss.
And I still
swords are named Democrat and Republican, if you didn't know.
There's still parts of the political theming I feel like I need to go over as well. Like, it's interesting that Solidus is kind of, both Solidus and the Patriots are kind of opposites of Liquid in a way. Of that, like, MGS1, the plot is trying to control through genetics, through nature.
Mm-hmm.
But in MGS2, it is trying to control people through experiences and memory.
Memetics.
Nurture.
Yes.
Like, it is.
Memes.
It's the duality. It's this like duality of nature and nurture that is like really, really interesting, and like it's something that I'm wondering if the series is going to kind of continue on, and that like it feels like both the heroes and the villains as of right now are kind of much more siding on like the nurture side of things, of like, you are made by your experiences, and like, I guess maybe the difference between like Solidus and the Patriots and like Solid Snake is like, Solidus and the Patriots are still trying to game it through a lens of control and like trying to treat nurture like nature, trying to treat it as like a science that you can use to control people and just like mathematically solve a human, I guess. Whereas Snake is like, no, even if you've, or I guess Snake is like, no, you can still move on at the end, and like you, at the end of the day, like you choose what to make of like what's happened to you.
Snake coming in as the Kojima surrogate, without a doubt. But that final speech Snake gives it really is beautiful. I think it's one of the best ones in any video game.
It is really nice.
I think it completes the theming of MGS1, where it's like the one line that I think really brings it full circle would be, what is it? It's like, keep the past alive to learn from it, something like that, right?
Which, like, honestly, that kind of feels like it could be just this theme of the series at this point. Like,
it is. It's like one was so obsessed with the past in a genetic way, of course.
Yeah.
And the ending of that game was kind of a rejection of that, in that your genes don't define you.
It's like, well, okay, then what about your experiences?
It's a real kill the past type of theme. But this game doesn't go in that direction. It's your genes and your experiences, your genes and your memes. You can choose what defines you. If you want to embrace certain things, if you want to choose to pass certain things on, whether it be through children or ideas, that's up to you, and that's what life should be. That's what it's about. Like, Raiden, you've been through a lot today. This has been quite the day for you. But that doesn't mean now more than ever is the time for you to choose to not be a blank canvas. You can take all the things that have happened to you and you can bring them into the future. You can have kids, you can write a book, you can do whatever you need to do, but it's your choice. Let you define yourself. Like, it's simultaneously the big final thematic resonance of the story and Raiden's Jack's end of his character arc, you know?
Yeah, and it is really meaningful coming from Snake, because, like, as Solidus talks about, like, we think about the ideas of passing on, like, so much of, like, what the villains are trying to do in this game is, like, take control of, like, the past and the future and, like, what is passed on, to the point where, like, the Snakes can't have kids. Like, that seems to be something that is conveniently edited out of their biology, which is, like, kind of makes you think of, like, I'm just wondering if that is also tying into, like, this idea of trying to control information, control what is, like, passed on, what's, like, limited. And it makes it really, I think it makes it meaningful for Snake to say it, that, like, even though he quite literally is affected by his genes, like, he has a clock on his life, he can't have, like, kids, and he is someone who is essentially born and bred to be a soldier through experience, for him to be able to go and say, like, no, I can still choose how to live my life. I can still do what ultimately fulfills me. I'm not... Stuff has happened to me, but I'm not at the mercy of it for the rest of my life. Like, it's... I think that's a really interesting place for the character to end up.
I agree. There's a reason 2 Snake has stayed in my head for so long. He feels so complete. It really is Snake at the peak of his life, I think. And that was the point. And that's, like, why you can't play as him, is because he's too good for you, the player.
It really does feel like the series could have ended here.
It should have.
You don't even necessarily need like an end to the conflict between like Liquid and Snake, because it's just like you just sometimes have people who's like come around in your life who are going to see the world in a really different way from you. And yeah, they're just gonna be conflicts with those types of people. And like, I don't know, it's less important that the conflict is resolved and more important that like Snake seems to have like found his path forward. It like
He has his purpose. He is. Before, he was a lot like Raiden, honestly. I don't know, he just got told what to do. He didn't live very much for himself.
Yeah.
He wasn't very much an individual, but he found his
and
way.
Also, yeah, and coming from a writing perspective, it's also like, yeah, I could totally see this being the last one, because like, how do you make a game where they take on the Patriots?
Yeah, fair.
Like, how do you make a game in which they are fighting the United States itself?
Well, that's why we made a prequel next.
Yep, that's why they made a prequel next. And it's like, this game really does just feel complete, and like it really could have ended there.
It's really hard to play 2 and 3 and just move on to another game in the series. It's like, I kind of want to let that one stew.
Because like, even though it's like they're kind of entering this Pyrrhic fight against an AI representing the US itself, it's like, it's still it's a very hopeful ending, even though, like, essentially the Patriots won. Like, the bad guys won at the end of this game. Like when you think, like, what did I do as Raiden? Like, what did I actually do? Not much.
Yeah, but
you did more to help the Patriots than hurt them.
But for Raiden himself, the character, it wasn't about the Patriots. It wasn't about the big plot. It wasn't about stopping Metal Gear. It was about Raiden becoming his own person. And him throwing away his dog tags, which have your name on them.
Which, like, what's the implication behind that supposed to be? Like, I thought his name was Jack. Is it, like, actually my name and Jack is the name he picked up later? Or?
No, I mean, all it means is he's not going to be controlled by you anymore. He's not going to be controlled by anyone. Not the Patriots, not even the player. He is his own person. Because before this, he was the ultimate blank canvas. I mean, he looks androgynous, so more people could relate to him. Everything about him is meant to be... He is not his own individual. He is the player surrogate. But now...
It is actually really interesting to think about him as, like, a blank slate, because I personally did see him as, like, a very distinctive character.
No, yeah, that's fair. But, like, the ideas of control. You literally controlling him. At the end of the game, no, he's not going to be controlled by you anymore. You can't even... I guess that's a spoiler, but, like, he will not be controlled anymore. He will be his own person. He is Jack. And he's just Jack. And he's going to do what he wants to do with that. It's his freedom to choose. And he didn't have that before. And that's the victory of the game. It's not beating Metal Gear. It's not beating the Patriots. It's just Raiden becoming an individual. And I think that's a beautiful ending.
And I do like that he's able to kind of stand face to face with Rose finally after the events of the game. It's a, like, it is a, you know, this is a very surface level, like, symbolism thing here, but, like, it's cool that it's, like, now that the truth is out between them, now that they both have kind of thrown away the, like, convenient stories they had been telling themselves, the attempts to, like, hide the parts of them they didn't want to see, it's like, that's when they're finally able to within the context of the game, not talk through the codec anymore, but like talk to each other face to face, and probably talk to each other like truly face to face for what may be the first time.
They get a fresh start. Both of them.
That's nice. There was one more thing I did want to talk about with the information. Things with the information themes. So, what do you make of the whole line of creating context?
I kind of view it as them trying to recreate the history control that used to be available to world leaders, you know? It's definitely an interesting line. It's like, it's hard to put into words what all it could mean, because it could mean a lot. Like, our mission is not to control content, it is to create context. I think maybe it's an admission that they can't control content, but what they will try to do is create a filter over the eyes of the masses to try and view certain kinds of content in certain ways, so that things that they don't want to happen can happen, or won't happen.
Yeah, and like that is a really interesting part of it, because it's also, I think this is a funny thing that it's a funny thing for Kojima to get wrong, but it's like in some ways, like information on the internet is actually a lot more fragile than people guessed back then. We've mentioned him on the podcast several times, Jacob Geller. He did a really good video about this topic. I think it's at least partly about this topic. It's called like, how do we bear to throw like anything away?
Yeah,
in which he
video.
basically he gives the little factoid that like it's like what, a third or half of all like articles on Wikipedia are dead. Like you can't access them,
which is terrifying.
That is like crazy to think about. And so it's like, it kind of makes you wonder, like, no, maybe controlling content may be even easier than Kojima thought it was, and that like
that was very much in the internet is forever days.
Yeah, which it's weird in that like I think the understanding post finding out that information is like the internet is forever in a lot of bad ways, in the ways you don't want it to be, and it's also not forever in the ways you don't want it to be.
Yeah.
It's just kind of all screwed up. And with the context thing, I always like when they dropped the context line, I honestly think about like journalism and news when that comes up, because like honestly in the modern day what a lot of a journalist's job is to create context for the viewer who is kind of swimming in adrift in information and doesn't know what's accurate. A lot of journalism nowadays is like, if you're not getting information by talking to people and interviewing and, you know, getting sources, like a lot of times you are like researching the information that is already there and trying to like filter like what's useful to know, what is like true, what isn't, what's like reliable, what, you know, what purpose a person may have for saying a certain thing, you know, kind of creating the lines between information almost in a lot of ways. And it's interesting because journalism has always been this thing that people will say you have to be completely unbiased, but it's like, I don't know if there's a way to do that without bias. Creating context in and of itself through what information you include, what information you don't include, what lines you draw, like that is all an act of bias in and of itself. And it's like, I don't know if and it's interesting to hear Kojima talking about it, because it's like, I don't think the whole idea of creating context is this like ultimate evil or anything. It's, you know, he meant it is something we all do for ourselves, but it's like that ability. I do wonder, especially like with the way the internet has become even more of just this unending torrent of information, if like the ability to create context for, you know, I don't even know if saying like for the good, because like, you know, what even is good? What is good? Are you just using your ideals as a stand-in for good? But it's like, is the idea to filter and create context like more needed than ever by people with how like much like disinformation gets passed around? Like, I think about the whole like COVID crisis when you had so many conspiracy theories popping up then. It's like answers that I like, you know, these are things that I just think about on like a pretty regular basis, and I feel like Kojima was really tapping into some of those questions fairly early.
Like, stupidly early, right? Like, he had to be so tapped into the internet, man.
I mean, well, I feel like the internet was probably just one of those things. It had been around for a bit by the time he made this game, and I think that the internet is probably just one of those things that when it was developing, people's brains were on fire with the possibilities of like what could be. And, you know, there was already, I think, you know, by this time there was already a very obvious like democratization of information and context creation through like early message boards. I don't know if like what's the super old social network, not Facebook, but like MySpace.
Yes, MySpace.
I don't know if MySpace was around by the time this game came out, but I feel like it's just kind of a matter of like looking at the stuff in front of you and just like, what are the questions that, like, what does this mean for the future? Like, I still don't. I think that like the Kojima being a prophet type thing like doesn't super apply here.
So I don't think he's a prophet at all. I think he just like how people say the Simpsons were were a prophet. No, they were just looking at things happening now.
They had their finger on the pulse,
yeah.
Which is, I think that is what Kojima does, and like I don't know what. It's interesting that it just really doesn't leave you with an answer on so many of these things. I really love that about the game. I love that it doesn't give you easy answers.
No, not at all.
On especially these ideas of context creation. Yeah, it does just kind of show that like obviously governments and oppressive regimes, like part of why they are so dangerous is because they get control of creating context. That is, you could say that is kind of a big part of fascism in a way, of like fascism deals in narratives a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that is part of how it gets its hold on people, but also like is Solidus's idea of total democratization of context creation, is that an inherent good in and of itself? Like, is it like a good idea to necessarily create this completely free information space? Because, you know, as I've said, like with social media and with information just swimming around, like people oftentimes don't really know like what to believe, and might even desire, like they may desire to be able to like go to people and who will like check the information and like kind of filter it through, and like, you know, going to places looking for understanding instead of information, instead of pure information. It's like, it's a balance that I really don't know if anyone will like find the line on.
I don't think we've found that line yet. Not in the series, at least.
Yeah, and I don't think
really...
like I don't.
Go ahead.
No, you can go. I've yapped a lot.
No, it's great. I think you're... I'd rather you yap than anyone else. I am really excited to see what you're going to come away from 3 with. Because it has things to say, but they're not exactly extensions of this. They are some things are. But it is kind of its own thing. If there was ever a standalone Metal Gear game, it would be 3. Some people might disagree with that. They're wrong. I also look forward to the Delta Let's Play. Ricky and I are going to do that. To anyone still listening. But you hit the nail on the head with, as much as you want to have an answer for a lot of the things presented at the end of the game, Kojima didn't know, Solidus doesn't know, Raiden doesn't know, not even Snake.
I don't know if anyone will ever know, except for what is what ultimately is best for themselves, because that is what Snake leaves you with.
Yeah, that is the conclusion of the game, is just, you should live your life. That's all anyone can do, is just live the best life you can. Like, it's a dystopian ending. We're in an awful place. But it ends on this hopeful message that's just like... It's a very individualistic one. It's... the world around you may be going to shit, and you can do what you can to help. But you gotta look out for yourself. You have to be happy. It's an interesting message, and I think it... I do think it goes beautifully with the end of 1. Both of these games have had such optimistic endings. Mm-hmm. At least feeling optimistic, right?
And I think it is made, like, more meaningful by, like, the fact that, like, the game kind of is just, like, whether it is an AI that representing the spirit of America, or, you know, capitalism itself and the effects that it has the effects it has on the information economy, like, there are just dragons in this life that are not realistic to necessarily be able to take down with just you and the boys.
Yeah.
And you kind of do just have to do the best you can where you are.
I guess we'll see, we're gonna see the consequences of lack of individualism next time.
In 4 or 3?
3. We're gonna see we're gonna see some strong examples of creating context and controlling content, actually.
Yeah, because, oh boy, the Cold War had a lot of that.
Y'all look forward to that. Ricky would probably have a lot more to say about 3 more than any other game, I imagine.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Carter, for sharing your thoughts. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and I'm glad the game lived up to your expectations.
I'm really glad, Ransom, that you tried and failed to show me this game.
Well,
all those years ago.
If anything, I'm glad it happened now, just because you're the smartest you've ever been.
Okay, but that moment where Solidus throws the katana at Raiden and it cuts his, like, handcuffs off, almost like he's, like, liberating him from the control of the pain. That was cool. That was cool. That was cool.
Did you know his swords are called Democrat and Republican?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool. I do remember you telling me that there's a cut, like, one of the cut scenes is, when Solidus dies, apparently Raiden was gonna, like, drape the American flag over his body or something.
What happens, it's still in the game, Raiden cuts down an invisible American flag, and it drapes down and covers Solidus's body as he dies. But it's invisible. It's very awkward.
Genius Kojumbo.
Thank you, Kojima. We'll see you next time with Metal Gear Solid... We'll see you next time with Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Metal Gear Solid 3
Snake Eater.
If Carter takes long enough, we can do another comparison with Delta, like we did with Twin Snakes.
When does Delta come out?
No idea. Okay, bye!
Bye.